Well, hello everyone. Welcome back. We have what we think, anyway, is going to be a pretty good episode today. We have
No pressure.
no pressure,
No-
a little pressure,
Just a little bit, just
a little bit of
enough.
pressure. We have Chelsea with us, and I'm going to let her do her own introductions. But Chelsea is the CEO, jack of all trades, everything for Factum Equine. And Chelsea, will you tell us a little bit about? Start with yourself.
Yeah.
Start with Factum. Whatever you want to start with. Tell us what you get us going.
Cool. So, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, so Factum is a 501c3. We're in East Haddam, Connecticut, and we provide nature-based wellness programs for adults, primarily first responders, veterans, but also grievers, adults that are perhaps caretaking for others, maybe people that are feeling a little bit lost, all in a species-centric setting for our horses. So it's a very intentional and thoughtful style of care that I think, mirrors to our clients, that we appreciate everyone in our community, not for what they give us, but for who they are as individuals. And we've been at it. This is our third year, which is very exciting. I've been in equine assisted services, though, for like 13 or 14 years. And after being at a very large therapeutic program, decided it was time to start my own gig. So Awesome. That's where we're at now. Yeah.
So I should tell everybody that Rich and I enjoy doing this kind of a little bit cold, like without a whole bunch of preliminary, unless we happen to know the person. But Chelsea said to me, "Hey, why don't you?" Because I just happen to live relatively close to her farm, and she said, "Well, why don't you come out and see the farm?" And you know how sometimes when you meet a person, you talk to a person, there's a thing. There's like a little moment that sort of sticks in your mind, and you sort of use that moment as an emblem of kind of like when you think of that person, you kind of think of that moment. And that moment, I mean, there was a lot of little pictures of it was beautiful, right? It was snow on the ground, and the animals were all happy and breathing steam and chewing hay, and you introduced me to not all, but many of the horses. But the thing that struck me the most is horses don't lie to you. That's what you said.
Yeah.
And like, just to give you a little bit more context to open it up to talk about, you basically said because horses have no way of lying to you, this might not be your exact words, but this is how I took it. Because horses don't lie to you, the person who's interacting with the horse can get a very clear idea of whether the animal is enjoying the interaction, not enjoying the interaction. There's no filter there the way there can be in society. And you want to start there and just kind of talk a little more about that? Because that made a very powerful impression upon me.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, that's like one of my most favorite things about working with horses, especially in a therapeutic space, because I don't know about you guys, I've interacted with people that are not totally forthcoming or say one thing.
That's never happened to me.
Say one thing and then behave a different way. And it's one of my favorite things because it's so refreshing, right? And horses have a totally different brain structure than we have, or very different anyway, and their frontal lobe is not as developed as ours is. And so every
frontal lobe tends to control like social interactions, shame centers, propriety, those kinds of things. That's what the frontal lobe does, right?
Yeah, like impulse control,
Right.
time management, pre-planning, all the executive functions, right? And so because their frontal lobe doesn't function the same way as ours, then every behavior that they have is a reflection of what they sincerely think they need to do in order to feel safe. And so, it says a lot if a horse wants to be in our presence, because as a predator to a prey animal, right, if they're choosing to be around us, then they feel safe to be there. And it's just really refreshing, I think, for people, right? Like whatever their behavior is an accurate reflection of what's going on in their brain and what's going on in their body. And it's really super special. What struck you about it?
To be perfectly honest with you, I was more struck by how interested you were in that concept, right?
Yeah.
The fact that you emphasized that to me, because remember you kind of sat, I went there with my wife and she still feels bad for not volunteering with you yet, but you sat us down.
Listen, the weather has been so bad. I don't blame her for not wanting to come out the last month.
It's been such a mess.
She'll probably revisit that after this episode
Yeah,
airs.
when the sun is shining and it's green instead of gray. Yeah.
She's kooky busy at work. But anyway, we're gonna make it happen. But so I was more, right? I was focusing on you talking, and I was trying to both kind of learn about you and also about what you do. So to me, the thing that struck me first was how much you prized that about the animals. You thought that had great value, and you spoke about it with enthusiasm and high value, right? That thing had high value for you. And then, the next thing that I remember about that thing is when you took me out. When you took us out and you started letting us into paddocks and stalls and enclosures to meet the horses, I was very much like, because I hadn't interacted with a horse since I was in high school, which was 3 years ago.
Sorry, I shouldn't laugh. Yes,
I don't know
definitely
why.
3 years ago.
You must have been thinking about an older joke.
Yeah, you forgot
or
the at
something.
least.
I'm not
At
really
least
sure
3
what
years
your
ago.
laugh, but
Yeah.
we're gonna move. We're gonna
just
move
misspoke,
along.
at
We have
least,
an
at
agenda
least.
here. What?
At least 3 years.
At
You
minimum.
misspoke. It's at least 3 years. That's it. Yeah, you're right.
I haven't interacted with horses since a long time, and for the most part, animals love me, right? But suddenly, I was like very conscious of like, well, not only what does this creature think of me, and for the most part, I'm very easy with that because animals can kind of tell that I'm okay. But then I started looking at you and thinking, well, what does she think about what the horse thinks of me? So I started doing this like,
Oh no,
it's like
Triangulation.
overanalyzing.
oh yeah, like I was starting to do this over, and then at some point I just let it go and started petting the animals.
Yeah.
But that's what that did to me.
Huh.
You know.
That's super interesting. Yeah, it's hard to balance that, like wanting to be in the moment, but also really wanting to do it right. And I think that's one of the gifts that horses give us, that whether we're doing it right, like textbook correct horsemanship or not, horses appreciate us just for really sincerely being there in the moment. And that integrity feels really compelling to me. It feels really like, sincerely, I don't care. I want the horses to like people, and that's usually like an excellent guide.
Yeah.
But we have to let go of some of that, like, oh, am I doing this right? Is this okay? What are the humans thinking about me? That's always my biggest gift. Our style of horsemanship is it's not novel, but it's sort of like going back to the roots of horsemanship from, thousands of years ago, where horses and humans really like coexisted. And so our style of horsemanship is very often judged by like the traditional current horse world. And I always say, like, I don't really care if people get it. I care if the horses get it.
Right, that's not your mission.
Yeah.
We're not doing competitive
I'm
events
not.
here. Yeah.
No.
This is helping horses and people.
It is, yeah.
It's that bonding, you're pulling,
Yeah.
you're creating these relationships.
Yeah. And
Positive relationships.
You know what? It helped me so much personally. So I've been in this field longer than I've been doing like this sort of level of work.
Okay.
And I really didn't know how to, when like a yoga teacher's like, okay, now ground yourself. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'll ground myself.
Where's the ground? Come
Yeah,
on, yeah.
I'm touching the ground. What more can I do? And I really didn't. It didn't, I'd go to like all these wellness activities, right? And then that would sort of be the foundation. And it wasn't until my horse, who the farm is named for, really was not interested in being around me, that I figured out what really grounding myself meant. And because they can't lie, they give that really immediate feedback. And even though I couldn't create that grounded feeling before him, I could start to watch his behavior change and then track what was going on in my own body and then start to replicate that for longer periods of time and with different horses. And then eventually, like in the real world, when there wasn't a horse there to sort of guide me through it.
Very cool.
Yeah, it is really cool.
Very cool. So horses don't lie, which is really probably why they're not in politics. Unless you have except for that dark horse candidate who usually doesn't win because they're not lying, I guess. So bad joke. And with that, we move into my question.
Yeah.
How'd you get started? Can you share? You said you worked at some other places. If
Yeah.
that's something you'd like to share with us, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, so I've been a horse girl my whole life. I started when I was 6, and outside of taking like a little bit of time off when I was in college, I really just kind of never stopped. I was like, both feet in, fully invested. I did grow up showing in the Hunters, and I did a lot of, when I was in undergrad, I studied psychology and special education, and I thought that I wanted to be an occupational therapist maybe, but I interned at one of the largest therapeutic riding centers in the country, and I got a lot out of that experience. For whatever reason, I didn't think that it was a real job that was available to me. I thought well, that's a job that other people get to do, and I better
Because they're
find
rich already
yeah,
or something.
whatever it was.
Just lucky or
and
what have
I
you.
need to find a real person job, So then I went to graduate school at UConn, and while I was there, I wrote a million papers on equine assisted therapy and equine therapy supporting first responders and veterans, but I still didn't think it was a job for me.
Right.
Even though my intention was to work in academia, I thought I could impact change through research. I just, to be honest, missed being around people. I missed the interaction
Right.
with humans, and so I left graduate school after 3 years with just my master's degree, and I worked at a therapeutic boarding school where we had horses, which was awesome, and we created an equine facilitated psychotherapy program there, and then
Forgive me, broke your train of thought, but
No, that's okay.
therapeutic boarding school. So the boarding part was for the humans that came there.
Yes.
And there was also horses who were boarded there, but
Yes.
that's you meant people came to, got it. Okay, so
Yeah,
people
yeah.
came to live, there were horses too.
Yeah, so I got a job there as a transition program director. So I worked with young adults that had pretty significant mental health needs. They were 18 to 22, and then because there were horses there, and I just can't stay away from them, right? I started getting involved in the equine program, and then at some point, I don't know, someone at this therapeutic center reached out and was like, "Why do you never apply for jobs here?" And I was sort of like,
Because this is like
me? Yeah, exactly. This is just a thing I do for fun. This is a thing I write papers about. This is a thing that I refer people to you for, but no,
other
not
people
me.
do this,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
No, you can do this.
Which is so interesting, right? But then I ended up applying for a program director job, and I got it, and I did it for 6 or so years, and I learned so much there from really special and wonderful professionals. That's where I met Lisa.
Oh.
And then, as I continued on my own healing journey, I realized that there were certain things that were not conducive for me doing the type of work I wanted to do with horses and being in a big machine,
Right.
that was really hard for me on a personal level, right? And so the place that I run Factum out of now, my horses were already living there, and the property owners were like, "Why don't you take over?" And I was like, "Yeah, no,
Yeah.
not for me."
Yeah.
And
I don't know anything about this.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then finally I was like, "But why not me?" And I took a leap and I did it, and here we are 3 years later.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Did you have follow up? Because
No, go ahead.
are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. So the connection between humans and animals is probably as old as humans are,
Yeah.
right? Or as old as animals. No, they have to be humans first. When did the psychiatric community realize or start to adopt the interaction. Correct me if I'm using the wrong words, because
Yeah.
I'm just putting it. I'm just trying to think my thoughts and put them into words. I may not be
Yeah.
using the right jargon, but when did we realize that there's a health benefit, a mental health benefit to connecting with animals? When did that become institutionalized, so to speak, and studied and you know?
Yeah, I'm like not at all an expert on like the history of therapeutic horsemanship, but what I will say is in the US, it started primarily with for folks that had physical disabilities. So the movement of sitting on top of a horse mimics like the musculature that's necessary for walking. And so we started with that in therapeutic horsemanship was
So it's physical therapy first.
yeah, yeah, hippotherapy. And up until, I don't know, maybe there are pockets of programs that have sort of adjusted to a newer model, but I didn't really see a shift in seeing horses as tools versus seeing horses as partners. Like to me, I'm like the human facilitator, but I'm not the therapeutic. Like I'm not the tool. The horses are the therapeutic partner, and I'm just there to ask questions. Right?
Right.
That model is somewhat new. I think to me, horses as tools diminish the capacity for them to impact change on mental health, right? Because it is a living, breathing, sentient creature, and if we're perceiving them only as tools, then what does that mean for like our relationship with humans, right? Like you're meeting a need for me, but that's it, and then my hands are washed of you, you know, when you're not meeting that specific need. And so I think we still have space to grow in therapeutic horsemanship, that our horses are partners, they're integral. There's a lot of argument still in the field about what language to use and how to talk about our horses. So I would say it's still developing, honestly. I don't know that we've like fully unlocked as a therapeutic horsemanship community how horses can sincerely benefit people's mental health on a larger scale. I think there are certainly pockets of people and places doing really special, deep work. But as a whole, I think we still have a ways to go, to be honest.
I just from the little that I've talking to you, just from the little that I've talked to you, I get the feeling that you're always honest. So, you know, you're kind of validating a theory that I had. I have this thing that I think in my head. I think that the greatest thing that we suffer from on Earth is sort of selfishness, right? If you can put aside self and start focusing on other a little bit.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the stuff, the day-to-day pain of being cut off in traffic or being rude to because somebody's focused on you as a tool. I'm bringing it back to what
Yeah.
you said. I think if we could get rid of that, we'd be better. And I'm really understanding what you're saying. So, I like motorcycles, and there's obviously sort of parallels with how you sit on a motorcycle and how you sit on a horse.
Yeah.
And I am in the automotive world, or in the work with your hands and turn wrenches world. There's something called mechanical empathy. Have you ever heard of this?
I have not. I'm really intrigued though.
Let me
'Cause
tell you more.
People make comparisons all the time to like horses are not motorcycles.
Oh, clearly not. No. Clearly not. There's just a tremendous amount of difference. However, right? We watch westerns, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if I told you about this when I saw you, but I'm an import from a country called Romania. So I came in '85, and so I feel like I got to see. We were Rich and I were talking about this last episode about. I feel like I got to see what in America went away in the 1910s before rural electrification and plumbing came around, right? Because there are pockets of Romania that was so behind the times. Okay, and you see animal cruelty, right? And I hated it from the day I was young. A neighbor of mine one time went to kick my dog, and I still remember how angry and red I saw. Like that wasn't about to happen. And even though I was 14 years old when this happened, and he was about 50 years old or 40 years old, He took one look at me coming at him, and he went right back into his house because whatever was going on my face,
You meant business.
I meant business.
Yeah.
Like, don't do that. Don't hurt animals.
Yeah.
Never around me. So, but obviously people did, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So moving to machinery. Sometimes you will see a mechanic working on something, and either because they're stressed out or they're thinking about something else, they're being careless, they won't be careful about the interaction between the tool and the thing they're working on. So they'll strip a bolt, or they'll strip a screw, right? Or when you operate a vehicle, like here's something that people do commonly. They drive an automatic transmission car, and they back out of a spot, and before the vehicle stops moving, they'll put the transmission from reverse into drive.
I've definitely never done that.
I don't think you would, but
I've heard about that. Yeah.
We'll steer
I've heard
clear
about
of
that
personal
somewhere.
accusations.
Definitely don't watch me leave the parking lot.
Definitely not
today.
going to.
Yeah.
That puts strain on the transmission.
Yeah.
Because the transmission has to work first as a brake and then as a propelling device, right? And so that just wears. I can give you more examples, but it's basically, it comes down to, my opinion, Alex's opinion, brutality to animals has a parallel in mechanical empathy. If you can understand how the vehicle is working, if you can understand how the horse is working, then you don't, and you care about the horse or you care about the machine, you won't abuse the horse. You
Yeah.
won't abuse the machine. And that's what mechanical empathy is, right? It's understanding and working with the natural physics of the machine.
Yeah.
Where you're talking about understanding and working with physics too, because hippotherapy.
Yeah.
So the physical aspect. Yes, you understand the physical interaction with the horse, but you understand the intellectual, so to speak,
Yeah.
interaction with the horse. And I see a big parallel there.
That is a big parallel. I appreciate you explaining that. Yeah, that's exactly it. And you started talking, and it reminded me of the idea, like, we heal in community. And that doesn't mean like, oh, well, you give me more, so you're a more important part of my community, and you give me less, so bye. See,
Right.
like, give me what you can, and then I don't care about you. It's the same idea as what you're talking about. Like, if we put deep care and consideration into the interactions that we have with inanimate and sentient things, I don't know, it feels more comfortable, right? And I would hope that we all treat each other with kindness and compassion. Sometimes we don't treat ourselves with kindness and compassion, but it's I don't know, it just feels really central, like really foundational. And like back to, that's what it's supposed to be, right? It's supposed to be like humans are supposed to exist in accordance with nature and in groups of people that like sort of counter support each other. But sometimes we move away from that.
And
I appreciate you explaining that.
oh, you're welcome.
Yeah.
I know that ever since I was a kid, I would not tolerate somebody being mean to an animal.
Yeah.
I know this. But those feelings extended to machines.
Yeah.
And you called a horse a tool, and that immediately triggered it. But that's not what I wanted to say. I wanted to go back and say, tell me if I'm understanding you right, because here's what I'm hearing you say, right? Horse, you, interaction, or me, machine interaction, and that's my parallel that I'm making. But it feels like you're saying that if you're able to step outside of yourself for a second and watch the horse and you interacting, then you're not only going to get a perspective on the horse, you're going to get a perspective on you. That feels like kind of where you're going with this. Am I hearing you
Yeah,
right?
that's exactly it. You have to take a step back because they're not going to lie to you when they're not interacting in the way that we want them to interact. A lot of
You got to
people.
look at yourself.
Yeah, but a lot of people's first reaction is to be like, "Oh, this horse is a jerk.
Yeah,
this horse
stupid
is
horse,
lazy.
it's not doing what I
Yeah,
want."
like
Yeah.
this piece of crap car, right? Like,
Right.
Or we do this with other, dogs too. I'm a dog
Yes.
person, right?
Yeah.
People do this like the dog's not listening. Well,
right?
you're not communicating effectively.
Yeah, yes.
Or understanding this is a creature that doesn't speak your language, doesn't have your mental capacity, and
Yes.
you are theoretically so much smarter. So why aren't you able to?
Exactly.
I used to say my dogs. I said my dogs are actually really smart and probably smarter than me in a lot of ways because
Yeah.
they have their own language, which I haven't figured out yet.
Yes.
But they understand a lot of words of mine.
Yeah.
And will do something, especially the ones like, oh, cookie, get on the couch.
Yes.
And they're like on there, like, where's the cookie? I'm ready.
Yes.
they're bilingual. I'm not. Yeah. It's like,
Yeah, it's
what
like
the heck?
we put a tremendous responsibility on them to figure out us. But then sometimes I think it's an ego thing, right? Like,
Sure.
and one of the things I find different with horses than with dogs, because horses are so expensive to care for, there is this sort of, well, I pay for you, so like you better make it worth my while. And that's not fair. I'm not
Right.
saying that that's fair,
Sure.
but I think that sometimes when horses have undesirable or unpreferred behaviors, we go to that, like, what's wrong with this horse? Because there's already the pressure because of financial issues and maybe people looking from the outside. It's also like really hard to look at ourselves and go, well, what am I contributing to this situation? It's a lot easier to put the responsibility on an animal
Sure.
than really like deeply look at yourself. And it's really hard. And to be honest, I didn't do it for the first 20 something years of time that I spent with horses. I really wasn't considering their perspective. I was like, I'm doing the right thing. You're supposed to listen. And then I encountered my horse Jack, and he was like, no, I'm not just gonna comply with you willingly. And he
I'm my own being.
Yeah.
I'm my own being.
Yeah.
Let's work together. Or how do we
Yeah.
motivate?
And God bless him, you
Yeah.
know, like I used to joke all the time, like, could he just like give me an easy day, you know, like please. But then would I listen to him if he gave me an easy day? Like I needed him to be like screaming at the horsey equivalent of screaming at me in order to be willing to look at myself, which they shouldn't have to do. I'm endlessly grateful that he did. But that's where we see a lot of conflict behaviors in horses, that they're trying to communicate things to us, and like we're like, get your act together, guy. I don't need to look at myself, you know. It's hard. It's hard to look at ourselves.
Oh, definitely. It's. I think there's like the all-knowing, all-powerful human being who is like, I'm in control. I know everything. It's like, why
Yeah.
aren't you coming to me? Why aren't you listening? Again, frustration with canines.
Yeah.
And I catch myself a lot. I
Yes.
do catch myself saying, they're doing the best they can to try to conform
Yeah.
and please me. And they're just like, what are you talking about? You know,
Yeah.
they don't get it. And I'm like, yeah, and I'm also one of those people which you relate to. I'm sure it's horse people as well as dog or cat people, where I've got the two dogs, and I'm like, okay, Mac, where's the other dog? You know, like where'd she go? And it's like, she, just looks at me like, oh, what you talking about? You know, figure it out. You're the smart,
Yeah.
advanced person. You figure it out.
Do you talk out loud to them all the time?
Yes, I do.
I
Yes, I
talk to
do.
my horses all
Yeah.
the time also. And my mentor, her name's Nicole, she specializes in animal behavior and communication. And she helped me realize that those, having those like verbal conversations helps us create a mental picture of what our expectation is. And so like, as an example, I know that I'm always like, don't do this, don't do that. But when you're saying don't do this, it's like me telling you don't think of a purple elephant.
Right.
Well, then of course you're not thinking of a blue elephant. You're
Right.
thinking of a purple
Clear
elephant.
your mind of everything.
Yeah.
We joked about that last week. But
Yeah.
Stay Puft Marshmallow, man. We'll just go back to the 80s and movies.
Ghostbusters.
Yes, yeah.
If you remember that first
Yeah.
movie.
Okay, you guys can judge me for this.
I've never seen.
I've never
Ghostbusters.
seen Ghostbusters. My husband has a list of movies that he's like
that's your
embarrassed
homework.
I've never seen.
That's your homework now,
That
yeah.
would definitely be on there. It's terrible. It's
Can I
terrible.
tell you a story?
Yeah.
So I forget what it was, a Saturday or something that I came to visit you. So that Monday I go to work, and there's a woman who started relatively recently at my job, and she catches a lot of flack. Shout out to Barbara. She catches a lot of flack
Poor Barbara.
from us because we all do cultural references like you saw. Right?
Yeah.
So that was a snippet, a line from a movie, right? So it's just it's a way to communicate with people who think like you. It's no big deal. She hasn't seen Star Wars, and she hasn't seen. She also hasn't seen Star Wars.
If I had a hood right now, I'd pull it up over my eyes.
You're fine. You're fine. There's a lot of things I haven't seen. So
She had never eaten rice and beans.
Okay, I have eaten rice and
This is a 40-year-old person, right? So I go in, and she has a horse, and she loves it, and she talks to me about it. And I tell her about visiting you. And she goes, oh, equine therapy. there's some interesting corollaries with insurance coverage. And I'm just like, what? Like, she knew equine therapy. She had already thought about, how, because she worked in insurance before she joined us. And she's like, here's how this interacts with insurance. Like, I opened the door to the thing that, like, obviously she knew super well. It was so funny. And now you are also of the kind where you're like, well, here's this thing that I know just oodles about, but I've never seen Ghostbusters or Star Wars, right?
I know.
Okay.
That's
I
part of
joke-
it, right? Like, clearly you have a passion and you found it.
Yeah.
And we're goofy with the movies, and you're just like, whatever. I got this passion over
I got something
here.
that's helping people and animals. They're talking about movies from the 80s.
No,
It's
but
surprising.
I very often feel like I need to get my act together on the movie
That's part of your
spectrum. I
relaxation,
joke
yeah.
regularly that I know a lot about very little. So I have like really pocketed areas of expertise, but like if you were to ask me to turn on the lawnmower at my house, I just wouldn't even try, to be truthful. So I have these pockets, and anything outside of those pockets is just a nope. And unfortunately, with like TV shows and movies, I'll watch stuff and I won't even remember that I've seen it. So
that's fine.
sometimes it'll come up on Netflix and I'll be like, that looks good. And my husband will be like, yeah, we already watched that. I'm like, oh,
Okay. Well, did we like it? Yeah.
was it good?
But that's okay because we all have our passions, our interest, and it's not the same for everybody.
Yeah.
Lots of things are common among people.
Yeah.
Interest. But getting back to horses and animals.
Get-
Oh, you have another question? You don't have to raise your hand. Yeah, no, it's okay.
Well, I don't want
As
to.
a teacher, he's like thinking in the back of the classroom. Yeah.
Know that one of our things here is respectful
Yes, I know.
interaction, not interrupting. So I feel bad, but I want to stay on that for just one more minute if I could.
Yeah.
He's right. My first job out of college, what I went to college for was teaching, and I remember like as maybe a junior in college. I remember I was talking to my friends, or maybe, I was talking to somebody, and I remember expressing this because I had thought about it for quite some time, and I thought that this is how I expressed it. I was an English teacher. In order to make literature relevant to the students, I have to know a little bit about a lot of things so I can connect to them and then help them connect to this thing
Yeah.
we're studying.
Yep.
Okay, so that's me. You heard the term schema? It's like a
Yeah.
schema in your brain, right? So how we organize data, right? So that was my schema, right? Like I engaged in knowing a little about a lot of things so that I could connect to a lot of different people and kind of help them connect to what I was doing or what I was teaching. Can you remember like how you thought about that? Like it sounds like at some point you made a conscious or semi-conscious decision to focus on the pockets of expertise that you mentioned. Do you have any recollections of that?
That's a really good question. I don't have like a specific recollection, but I am, I'm like an obsessive learner. I feel like it's not enough for someone to just tell me, hey, this is what you should do. I want to know why. I want to understand like all the processes that are going into it. And I feel like part of that is, if I don't have all the information, then how can I be expected to make the right decision, right? And so I just learned like one little thing at a time. Okay, well, in order to advocate for my horse or for my client, I need to learn more about this thing. I think it came up through moments of feeling incompetent and being disappointed that I felt incompetent. I also think like we can't all be good at everything. And so I'm like the first one to go, I'm not for everybody. What I do is not for everybody. But I know lots of other people that have lots of other skills. And so if this isn't your ball of wax, that's okay. Here's someone else who has a really cool ball of wax. And I feel that way with like our veterans programming at the farm. Horses are not going to be for everyone.
Sure.
But if I know people from other organizations, even if horses aren't your thing, maybe fishing becomes your thing. Or
Right.
maybe,
Music. There's some
Yeah.
other
yeah.
possibilities
Or
for
like Veterans Rally Point has really cool like carpentry and pottery classes. And to me, I'm not trying to be everything to everyone. I'm trying to be really good at the thing that I do and then have like a community around me that I feel safe and comfortable to refer people out to. Yeah, and then when I have blips of incompetence, I'm like perfectly happy to go, yeah, I don't know, I've never thought about that before. But I love being curious about stuff. Yeah. I don't know if that answered your question.
It wasn't meant to be. It wasn't meant to be answered. It was just meant to be like
Yeah, reflective. I appreciate
reflective.
that.
Yeah. Anyway, you were.
I find this kind of moving around a little bit, and I find this. And I'm just going to wonder. I'll make a couple statements, and kind of get your take on that. Maybe a question thrown in there. So something I always found interesting, at least in the past 25, 30 years or so, as I kind of really embraced dogs and was thinking about being a veterinarian at one time as a second career later in life. I kind of seriously looked at that, and was very interested in that the human-animal bond or connection Alex talked about earlier, and it also can kind of be. I'm not being like overly religious, but it's a spiritual thing to me.
It is, yeah.
And I've always found a connection with nature through my scouting activities. Being at camp, I always felt much more connected to the world around me.
Yeah.
Sitting out quietly on a rock under a tree
Yeah.
and carefully listening. You know, and you hear the frogs blooping up in the water and the birds singing and doing their thing and rustling in the wind. And it was just very peaceful to me. And so I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, but it does come around. And in mentioning literature as well, I'm thinking about humane treatment and ethical treatment of animals, which I think we all agree it's heaven help people that are trying to harm an innocent.
I won't help them. Heaven help.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking of you said you mentioned earlier in the introduction that you've been around horses since you believe you were 6. So that was something interesting. Did you
Only 3 years.
Yeah, just
Go.
three.
Right.
It was about 3.5 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you look great for 9. Or
Yep.
look great. Yeah.
You really do look great for that. Very mature for that.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And so I seem to recall reading about this book, Black Beauty, which is a classic, and I believe that was I want to say again from my reading that was the first book written from the animal's perspective, and helped launch the the humane societies and the ASPCA or SPCAs, and these animal rights groups that are trying to protect the humane treatment of ethical treatment of animals, and so I'm looping around with that a little bit too. Something I think is maybe akin to what you're doing, not exactly, but there's some college programs I stumbled across which involve that, like the spirituality of the animal-human bond.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, this is like a burgeoning field.
Yes.
It really is something pretty new.
Yeah.
And some of them go as far as saying like animal chaplains,
Yeah.
which are people who don't just cater to the animal. Again, for all three of us, this would be something where you're like, yeah, I know other people like that's stupid. I'm like, okay, well, you don't have animals. I get this, right?
Yeah.
You go play over there. And it's really in the sense of somebody being trained to assist, to counsel animal owners, lack of a better term, or partners, human partners, as well as the animal, and it gets based on people's various faith traditions or spirituality.
Yeah.
And I'm like, to me, that was very fascinating.
That is very fascinating.
And it was very fascinating.
I appreciate you sharing that.
And I actually joined a therapy group online after I lost my dog.
Yeah.
And that was just kind of this thing. And I stumbled across this woman in Columbus, Ohio, that was an animal chaplain. And just an interesting group of people. And they're just kind of talking about their animals. And it was just kind of the other side. We're talking about helping folks with this therapy, but also connecting with the animals. I think that's kind of an interesting way to do this. This is a growing field. There are a few people around. If you kind of Google that, I know there's somebody in Connecticut, Southern Connecticut. There's somebody in the Boston area, and they do kind of serve folks that maybe need. You're offering help to people that as you mentioned, first responders, military people that were caregivers. That was me, who need to have some kind of outlet or some activity, positive activity, and then sometimes you pull in that other side a little bit. So that might be something. Since you like pockets of information, you're probably like me.
I'm going to leave it.
I had a friend who said something at one time. He says, "I'm like an encyclopedia." I'm like, "Oh, really?" And he says, yeah, I know a little bit about a lot of things. And I said, okay, that's me too. I don't know enough to be necessarily an expert in anything, but I know just enough to be dangerous, as they say, about various things. And I'm fascinated learning something, not necessarily learning it to be, or as you said, I might say, hey, I'm going to partake in your service and I'm going to come down. So, well, which I doubt because I haven't done that. I haven't been around horses, but I suspect I would probably like them.
Yeah.
And, but I can see
pretty hard
somebody,
not to like.
I can see people coming down there saying, well, that's not my thing, but
Yeah.
where's that pottery place? I want to try that.
Yeah.
And that's okay. We all have our little interest in things. So
Yeah. That's also interesting. I think that it's really comfortable for people, particularly who have had hard life experiences, to feel compelled to want to support animals, right? Like if we think about it from like what they're doing and maybe what wasn't done for them, right? They're advocating for something they can't speak up for themselves.
Right.
And that's really important work to do. For us, I feel like it ends up sort of being a secondary byproduct that people think differently about how to interact with animals globally, like outside
Right.
of the farm. But I think sometimes planting those seeds is really, really important. And then you go home and you go, I was so intentional with the horse. And when was the last time that I was really intentional putting my dog's collar on?
right.
You know?
Can you define intentional? What do you mean in this
Yeah.
situation?
So I don't know about you guys. My mind is a very busy place. I'm like regularly pulled between thinking about what happened yesterday or what happened 15 years ago and like what could happen and what could I say or what should I say. And I think that a lot of times, not on purpose, but and I was like this for a long time, just kind of like float through life to like check things off the list. Like, oh, I got to get this done, and so I'm going to go do the thing. But when I'm working with horses and with people, I try to really like be there in the moment and really, and they reward me for that, which I appreciate. But if I'm going to put a horse's halter on, that's like their version of a collar, I'm not thinking about, oh, we're going to go there and do this. I'm thinking about putting the halter on so gently and requesting that they put their nose into it, and maybe even noticing like how it feels on my fingers, or thinking about how I'm holding the lead line in my hands, instead of allowing myself to be sort of pulled off course to the next thing or the thing after, or that person watching me or whatever. And there are all kinds of things like that. Like you could do that in your everyday life. One of my previous therapists, she was like, have you ever like paid attention to your seat bones in your car while you're driving? And I was like, no, like literally not even one time had I thought of that. But that's like
Did you say seat bones?
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
you're sitting in your car and you're just driving, and I do a lot of driving. You know, I have a long commute.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, no, I've never thought of that. I'm always just thinking like, where am I going?
Right.
And
Road rage. Yeah.
And
get
so
there.
now, like, I have points on my commute where I go, oh, where am I holding tension in my body? What do my seat bones feel like underneath me? Or do I have equal weight on both of my seat bones?
So you're more self-aware.
Yeah. But like that can be applied in any aspect of our lives. And if we find one little thing, then we can start to build on it. And then your mind doesn't stay so busy because it's staying busy being present.
Yes, it's like
instead.
open all night here. Yeah. It's like,
yeah, seriously.
Yeah, for real. Sometimes it's tough to sleep.
Yeah. And I know like I catch myself when I'm walking my dog going like, okay, we're just going to walk to the corner and then we're going to turn around, instead of like, what do my feet feel like inside of my shoes? Or like, how is her tail wagging? What is she looking at? Those things that would bring me back to the present moment. I'm already thinking about, oh, we're going to get to the end of the road.
Get back in the
We're
car,
going
go
to turn
home.
around. Yeah, exactly.
You're right. And
Yeah.
it's what's the old saying? It's the journey, not the destination.
Yeah.
So we don't want to think of the destination per se. You have goals
Yes, of
for
course.
things, but enjoy the moment.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I agree. It's easier to I'm really good with this too. I use this a lot with stuff like, oh, these are chores. Well, I'd rather go do this.
Yes.
But live life, because the chores will be there tomorrow, and the chores will be there if I pass away. It's not, it's okay. It's important
Yeah.
to wash dishes, but it's not as important as walking the dogs.
Yeah.
Or hanging with friends or doing a podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I could listen. You're coming back, right? This isn't the old.
We're not even like a half hour in. He's like gotta get her back. This is
No,
gonna be good.
we have like everything you say triggers me
awesome.
to talk about 10 things, and mathematically it doesn't work.
See, math, another thing I know nothing about.
Yeah, math is evil. We all know this.
I remember elementary school. You're not going to be able to walk around with a calculator all day.
Turns
look
out you
look
were.
at me now.
Yes, you are. You have a
I
computer.
have one right here on
Yep.
this phone.
You have a computer and a radio
Yep.
together. Yes, that's our TV studio.
Okay, so I'm getting. I don't know if you finished your point about intentionality, but you defined it so well. I am very conscious when I click my dog's collar.
Yeah.
I'm conscious of the loudness of that plastic because I know her hearing is so cute, right?
Yeah.
And so I try to make the plastic ears not click
Yeah.
so loud. So I you know what I'm saying? I hold
Yeah.
my finger. And the other thing is, she really doesn't like having something pulled over her head. But if you show for her jacket,
Yeah.
right? So if you show her the hole that the head goes into, and she'll kind of look at it, and then she'll kind of stick her own head into it. I
Yeah.
don't have to
Like force it on her, right?
force it on
Yeah.
her. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
have to make her feel uncomfortable.
She's making the decision.
Yeah.
She's like interacting with the decision.
Yeah.
She's interacting with the process, and now I understand what you mean by intentionality.
Yeah.
So I kind of pulled you off course to define that. You were saying that when you're with the horses, you're very intentional, and I think we all know that the modern world doesn't want to leave us alone for 5 minutes to be intentional. It wants to text us, and it wants to offer us products for sale, and it wants to show us music and
Yeah.
all the things that I just don't. I don't know that they're very good for us, but maybe we're talking about that. So more on that. So when you're with the horse, you're practicing intentionality, and then you said, and the horse rewards me for it. How? What's the reward?
Because when we're doing things with them instead of to them, and they have those moments of partnership where they're choosing to engage, they're choosing, right? And so it's like an upward spiral where the more things you do to them and you're not present for, then you start to miss micro communications, things where they're trying to tell you, hey, I'm not cool with that. Like, and kudos to you for noticing your dog doesn't love things going over their head. A lot of people would be like, sit down and shut up. Like, you have to put your jacket on, right? But once you sort of open that door that you will listen and you do pay attention, then all kinds of other things come up too. And then, I don't know, I'm just like differently motivated by horses wanting to engage than really like anything else. And so if their interest in engaging with me pulls me back to the present moment over and over and over again, then all of a sudden it's been, I don't know, how long were you at the farm? Like 2.5 hours? Did you think about your phone at all that whole time?
No, but that's not because of you. I'm very
Yeah.
intentional about putting the phone aside.
Yeah.
Sometimes people try to call or text me and I don't pick up,
Yeah.
because I've put it aside.
Good for you.
I'm working on the car. I'm working outside.
Yeah,
I'm on the
good
tractor.
for
I
you.
can't hear it anyway.
Yeah. A lot of people don't have something in their lives to motivate them to do that
Yeah.
or to really be in the moment. And you're right, like we're rewarded for having our phone on us all the time and for responding to text messages immediately and picking up the phone every time someone calls. And so I needed
We get virtual treats or something.
yeah, right? There's like a dopamine release that we're
have
meeting
to-
someone
Not
else.
like there is
there
a
is, yeah.
dopamine.
I have to
Yeah.
laugh at a friend of mine, and I'm not trying to bust on him, but he's on social media. And he's like, hey, guess what? And he makes this post like, I was just like the number one follower of somebody. And I'm like, who? It's not even like anybody famous, right? I'm like, who is
Yeah.
this, right? I'm like, why? In my mind, I'm like, why are you wasting your, I mean, I don't know your life and I'm not
Yeah.
living it, right?
Unless,
But
of
to
course, it
me-
was Scouting Mass, in which case
that's different social media.
Yes.
But it was almost like an obsession with following like it's like silly when he's following like these young women or something. So I don't even know what's going on with that, but kind of like you're sort of in my mind wasting your time doing this because there are so many cool things you could be doing, whether it's even if you're just sitting out in the sun getting fresh
Yeah.
air, or taking a walk or doing something with your significant other or whatever.
Yeah.
There's so many more things you can do than being like, I've got like 3 influencer badges, that I earned.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. I feel like if you were to ask a child, like a 7 or 8-year-old, like, what do you aspire for your life to look like? They wouldn't be like, oh, I want to scroll on my phone for 7 hours.
I want to answer texts right away.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I want to write computer programs that can be used to become apps for phones.
Yeah, they have all these like, beautiful goals. And I think through living it's like the path it just like pulls us sort of. And sometimes we need these really intentional things to go, okay, but what if you went like 2 degrees this way?
Yeah,
And what if you went 2 degrees this way? And then all of a sudden, like the whole day is gone and like I'm living my literal childhood dream every single day, which is like so special.
Well, it's only been 3 years. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, exactly. Look what I've accomplished in my short 9 years of life.
Pretty good.
Yeah, right. And I think I wouldn't necessarily have had these opportunities if I didn't have the motivation of horses pulling me back. And it doesn't have to be horses.
Sure.
It can be something else, but finding that thing that motivates us to go back to those like childlike joys and the things that make us really
Yes.
happy. Like you light up when you talk about car stuff.
Yeah, he does.
You know,
Yes,
like
he's
that's
a car
really
guy.
important.
Nobody's ever noticed that before.
Yeah, cars. Are you sure? Yeah.
Unfortunately, I've learned that.
Well, that's not quite true. It's motorcycles, cars, trucks, buses, tractors,
Boats,
yeah,
anything
boats, yeah,
with-
anything,
anything
yeah.
that's self-propelled,
space shuttles,
basically,
yeah.
yeah.
See,
It
I know
doesn't
nothing
matter.
about that.
You know, cars for me were freedom. Okay, and through cars, I also connected to something where you said like a minute ago. I'm gonna not do it justice, but you said if you do one thing and you get rewarded for it, it brings you it reinforces for you to come back. You remember saying that? So, like. First, I started reading about cars because I thought they were aesthetically beautiful. I thought they were aesthetically beautiful because they offered me the freedom, right? And I understood at a young age that cars were also a method of communicating your status, your social status, or your personality. For a while, I used to play a game where I would meet somebody and kind of get to know them, and then try to guess what kind of vehicle they drove.
Okay,
Not the
don't-
make and model.
Don't judge me by my car because it does not match my personality, and I know it.
I've given that up because I realized how foolish that was, right? And how complex the thing was. But it was just anyway.
It's like a carnival sideshow or
It was
something.
a
Yeah,
carnival
yeah.
sideshow.
Yeah, but I
That's
know
all
what
it
you're
was.
saying. I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
It does, like the choices that we make in our everyday life do say something about us, right?
100%. The clothes you choose,
Yeah.
and the car you drive, and
Yeah.
how many rings you don't wear, and
Yeah.
all that stuff. I'm married, but my wife is okay with me not wearing.
That
a
was
ring.
my thing too. Not a jewelry guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, for me, it was the flight line.
Right,
'cause you had
safety.
to take it off. You
Safety,
can't
yeah.
wear rings on the flight line.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I work out, and
Yeah.
you bust up the ring at the gym.
Yep.
So I was forever putting it on and off and on and off, and
Yep.
I lost a couple rings, and I just asked permission to just not
Special
Yep.
occasions. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'll wear it if we go. But anyway,
Like do a
Oh, boy.
podcast or
Hold on.
something.
and then I started reading a whole bunch of car magazines because I loved cars, right? And then I learned about valve springs, which are like snooze, but valve springs introduce you to metallurgy.
okay.
And the way metallurgy behaves, is very important as engines expand and contract through heat cycles. And cars have tires, and that led me to read about the history of rubber plantations and the sad history of rubber plantations,
Yeah.
and the more recent history of synthetic rubber, making, and that's how I connected to what you said, right? Sometimes you find the one hobby horse that you really enjoy, and by reading about that one, thank you. Tip your
I'll
waitress.
be here all week.
Yeah.
You start to learn about, because everything's so interconnected in our world, right?
Yeah.
Nothing is made locally
Yes.
like the way Henry Ford made everything in one factory, to include rubber.
Yep.
Nowadays, everything's and so you end up expanding that diagram of what you understand.
Yeah.
Because if you can tie it to what you love,
Yes.
then it's not boring.
Correct.
Right? I don't really care about metallurgy.
Yes.
But when I learned that you could have higher RPMs if your metal tensile strength is X, now metallurgy becomes
Yes.
important.
This is like my entire life at a farm. That we have a couple horses that have this medical condition. It's absolutely disgusting and it's very hard to manage. It's called free fecal water syndrome. Does that sound like a thing you want to learn about? No.
Not at all. But you have to learn about it.
But I cared so much about these individual horses
Right.
that I now understand like the biological systems that create this condition so that I can provide care to remediate the condition, right? And then you get to see the immediate outcome of all that work and all that learning by their lives being improved, right? And that's really rewarding. And then,
Because it's something you care about, something you love,
Yeah.
have a passion for. So whatever it takes
yes.
to make sure that things are going well for your partners, your equine partners,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They're part of your family.
Yeah,
In
for
a sense,
sure.
so you have to take care of them. So you're learning something. I've done the same thing with the canines.
Yes.
Learning stuff. If you asked me years ago, like, hey, would you take this syringe and inject this phenobarbital into your dog? I'm like, are you crazy? I'm like, nope. I'm doing it like a pro. I'm
Yeah.
pulling stitches out of their muzzle.
Yeah.
I'm doing stuff because you do what you got to do.
Yeah. It's like
And-
it's a real privilege to care for animals, and
Yeah.
I really take that privilege very seriously.
Mm-hmm.
We all get to choose what we do with our lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we get to pick for the most part.
People don't realize that they get to choose sometimes.
Yeah.
It sounds like you experienced some of that when you were
Yeah.
not as intentional to use your term.
Yeah.
You didn't know you could choose, and then you
Yes.
chose.
Yeah.
Anyway, I interrupted.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Horses don't get to choose.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like it's my responsibility as, we've domesticated them. And so I better do a good job caring for them in this environment that they didn't choose to be a part of.
As a thank you.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Here's here's a something I learned 6 months ago, not too long ago, but and it was underscored when I came to your farm, and then maybe we should take a second to talk about how beautiful your setting is, but we'll circle back. This is the 10 things that you trigger every time you say something.
I'll just keep quiet.
No,
No,
please
not
do
at all.
not.
Not at all.
Please do not.
Don't let us talk. Yeah.
Apparently, in history, poor members of society, I'm going to call them peasants. I don't know if that's necessarily the correct term because there might have been wealthy peasants, but I'm going to call them peasants. They would construct their house in such a manner so that their larger animals could come into the house at night. Partly this was for protection so that wild animals couldn't destroy this very important resource. I know what you were saying. Don't treat them as a tool, but that's
But
kind
for
of
them, it was the tool.
but and that's the point I'm trying. Let me say the thing and make the point that. But also, in the wintertime, this person who was stating these facts claimed that a large cow or a horse could generate as much heat as a small space heater. So if you were to bring, the family cow and maybe the family horse and a couple sheep, and those creatures either lived below you and you lived on top of them, or they lived in the same enclosure as you did, firewood wasn't cheap. We think
Yeah.
of firewood as like throwaway resource, right? But firewood was expensive. If you were subsistence living, you may not have been able to burn a hot fire through the night. And so you invited these animals to share your home with you. They gave you heat, and you survived the winter,
Yep.
right? I wonder the psychological impact of that. I mean, it's got to make you look at the creature in a different way. If not only this creature helps you, get your goods to market, helps you plow your fields, gives you milk,
Yeah.
gives you wool from the sheep, right?
Yeah.
So not only are they directly feeding you, clothing you, but they're also keeping you warm in the winter. And that must make it more than a tool.
Yeah, I would
It
hope
is a
so.
tool, but it's also a source, right? So
Yeah.
and then you'd probably had like good people who were good to their animals, and not such good people who were rough to their animals.
Yeah, I think of it like it's like a symbiotic relationship, right? Like if
Yeah.
you're not in those times anyway, if you're not caring for your animals and you need them for things, then your needs aren't going to be met. And
You're going to be less successful in society.
yeah, exactly. And so that like symbiosis was, that style of symbiosis was essential at that time. Now it's not. Now people are like jumping horses over colorful sticks. You know, they're
Yeah.
not living that way.
Right.
Sure.
And so then,
They're toys now.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. And so then I think it's our responsibility to think about how should this dynamic look now, and to challenge that a little bit, that we don't need to use them as tools. They're not pulling us to work every day.
Right.
They're not carrying our groceries. They're not warming our houses. It would be incredibly non-economical to do that now with how much horses eat.
Oh my gosh.
But we have to challenge how we have thought about animals
Yeah.
because our relationships are changing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just I'll move off of this,
No.
but again with the parallel of mechanical empathy, when I was for various reasons, there were moments in college when I didn't have a place to stay and I stayed in my car. So my car was my house, and of course, if your car is that important to you, and I'm not trying to make myself sound like pity party, right? It wasn't for extended periods of time. It was a few days in between situations, but you know, it pays to have that car operational if it's winter and you have to sleep in it, because you
Yeah.
got to turn on a little bit of heat,
Yeah.
right? So just like you said about treating your symbiotic partners well, my car was a symbiotic partner, and so it was appropriate and self-serving. It was
Yeah.
self-beneficial to be
Yeah.
mechanically empathetic to it.
Yeah. And I think so I'm in a privileged position where at this stage in my life, I can focus. I'm not worrying about, if we look at like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like I'm not concerned about shelter and food and, my like general safety. So I get to be
It's all about
focused.
self-actualization.
Yeah.
You've reached the peak of
I
it.
get to be focused on the way I think about things and like
You can be kind of selective,
I
right?
can
You
be.
you don't have the basic needs are met.
exactly.
So
And
now you
I'm
can-
super privileged to like
Yeah.
exist within that. But I do still see the horses as like the thing that keeps me on that path, right? So sometimes I'll go to the barn and I'll be like, I'm doing great today, and I think I'm being present. And then my horse Jack, I call him a BS meter. He will snap me right out of like, you think you're doing what you're doing, but you're not doing it right. And I need that. I need to be challenged. I need something outside of myself to go, hang on a second here, lady. Like, come back to center. And I'm privileged that I get to do that with horses. Other people don't have that privilege, and I take it really seriously. It's a big responsibility. And in some ways it is self-serving.
Well, I mean, that's Spinoza, right? Spinoza said that everything that a human does to some degree is self-serving. And I remember trying to think my way out of that box. For a long time, I tried to think of my way out of that box, right? Well, but no matter how you look at it, if you do something and you enjoy it, then you have pleasure. So even if you don't get money or recognition or clothes or shelter, even if you get no material possessions from doing an act, if you're doing it because you like it, you still get satisfaction, right? So there's a selfish component there, but that selfish component, that self-serving component, doesn't have to be the totality of the experience, right?
Yeah,
You
for
can
sure.
recognize it and say, I need to work to feed my family. But that doesn't mean that I don't also enjoy my job for the things it does. It could be interesting or complex, or I might enjoy my friends at work, and or I might enjoy the difference I make in the world with my job, right? So you don't have to let the self-serving component of what you're doing destroy the enjoyment of what you're doing. And
Yeah.
Or the totality of what your experience is.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
a component, so it's a part.
It's a component.
It's a
Yeah.
part of it.
Well,
so.
and like I think of the people that I want to be around the most, and it's people that are like living. They're doing their cup is full. They're taking care of, right, that like role models the right things. I don't want to go see a doctor who's like miserable being a doctor. I want a doctor who you go see them and they're like genuinely curious and interested about your well-being. When I go to a mechanic, I don't want to just be like, okay, charge this lady $99.99. I want them to care about my car.
Right.
And like
Right.
that comes from that self-serving place that, you know, I want to be surrounded by people that want to do the things that they're doing. Sometimes it feels selfish, and that's like I don't know, that's a funny sort of pendulum that we have to cope with as humans, is like, at what point is this too selfish, and at what point is it better for us to take care of ourselves, because you can't pour from an empty cup.
It's balance. It's go ahead.
I was just about to say.
It's balance.
I was just about
It's
to say.
and I was going to say, and you mentioned earlier about, you know, we talked about the instant gratification, social media, and getting stuff, and I brought the examples up of a friend of mine. Disconnecting from the phone. We're trying to do that. Alex on the farm with no phone, because that's his thing. It's gone. I'm in the zone. And we try to do it with our kids in scouting, right? We try to get back to like nature, outdoors, put the phone away. You can play the video games later. They're going to be there.
They're going to be there.
Get out with your friends.
Yeah.
You know, do a hike, fish, swim, do whatever fun stuff you want to do.
What age do you guys work with?
Kindergarten through 20.
Okay.
So we have programs for all those levels.
When I used to work with kids regularly, I used to find that the like 7 to 9 years old was the cutoff, and then they would start to be sort of distracted by the outside stuff. Do you find that?
I think the young ones are still distracted. It depends. Which is interesting. Some of the teens are able to put things away and focus on
That's great.
what they want to do.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is the program helps. It's not all attributed to us, but we help. We partner, obviously, with parents and faith traditions and schools to help develop these kids. I had a couple of questions related to kids. And a couple of these are going to sound like really, we're talking about some deep stuff. Yeah, you have.
May I add just one thing?
add
to
a
the,
deep question before I get to my like grade school.
It's more of a
ones, yeah.
comment. So we know now, right? We know now that what we call thoughts are really just an electrical signal that is traveling down a piece of skin, a very tiny piece of skin that we call a nerve, right? And there's a pattern. And when I think of Factum Equine and Chelsea, that triggers a pattern of nerve impulses in my brain, right? And so the reason I felt it was important to say this now is because everything we do, the thoughts we have are nothing but a pattern of electrical signals in our brain. We think of it as like, oh, Chelsea. I have a picture of Chelsea. I know where Chelsea works. I know what she does. But in fact, all that is just a set pattern of electrical impulses. And if you know that, then the putting down of your phone takes on a different meaning, because you realize that its use. It used to be an expression, use makes master, right? It's pattern. It's pattern. If you do something long enough, you will become better at it, and it'll become easier. So if you're having a tough time putting the phone down, it's because your brain has fallen into this electrochemical pattern that when you feel bored, you go to X website. Of course, there's a website called X now, so I should say something else.
XYZ, yeah.
Yeah, XYZ website. So that becomes, you go to XYZ website, you're distracted, that gives you pleasure, you do it again. And that pattern in your brain becomes more entrenched. And that's the destruction of that pattern is called forgetting, and the reinforcement of that pattern is called learning and deepening your thinking, right? And then you get the branching off. So if we think of it in those terms, we can be less judgmental about the act, because the act is partially biological, and the biological component can be changed. And we have a path to changing it, because we know that what we have to do to change is we have to engage in different behavior that then creates new patterns, neurological.
Biological response to stimuli, outside stimuli. So, right, we want to. This is too convenient. Too convenient to pick this up.
It's very easy.
It's easy. I do. I like music videos. I watch things like that. Too easy, but it's harder to sit there and say, I think I want to go on a hike or take a nice walk. You get just as much benefit from that, or if not more.
Yeah.
But I'll just look at this for a few more minutes. It's too easy, and that's the convenience, and that's the hard part of corralling ourselves and youth into something like, summer camp or your facility maybe.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I love this topic. Last year, we had a therapist come to the farm to talk to us about confidence around horses, and she explained exactly what you're saying in a way that I've used this example so many times. That when we have these unhealthy patterns of thought, and the thought could be like, oh, I'm just going to pick up my phone and check Facebook another time. It creates a neural pathway in our brain that's like a perfectly manicured trail, and it's very easy and it's very predictable. And then when we try to do something novel, like go for a hike, it's a very difficult trail to pass.
It's an overgrown trail.
We
Yes.
might be trailblazing.
There's
we might,
brush. What's going on?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So of course our brains are drawn to like the
easier-
neat, easy path.
Yeah.
But if we never go this direction, then that path never gets cleared. And so that's one of my favorite things about horses is that they motivated me. Like, it's worth it to clean this trail up. And I wouldn't maybe have been motivated to do that for myself, but it's benefited me immensely. And that graphic, she had a slide, and I think about it all the time, like a clear path and then just like a really treacherous one. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly what it is in our brain. Yeah.
You wanted to don't lose.
No,
don't lose
I'll
your
wait
path.
for
You
you.
wanted to talk about.
I want to get into a couple of questions.
Yeah.
related
So
to stuff, but
this
go
will
ahead
be
and
the
do
last
this.
thing I say. But
No, it's all right.
I have said this innumerable times, but I've told people, hey, if I can promise you that I'm going to do something for you, then I will commit. When I find about myself that if I promise somebody that I'll show up or do a thing or whatever, if I
Yeah.
make that promise to a human, another human, not myself, I'll follow through. But if I oftentimes, if I make myself a promise
Yeah.
to do something new, to go down a new path, I will often fail because somehow committing to myself is different and more easily excused than committing to somebody
Yeah.
outside of myself to whom I don't want to break a promise. I promised Rich I'm
Yeah.
going to do this thing, right?
Yeah.
But promising Alex that I'll do something, Alex will forgive me. I know him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Know him real well. We're
Yeah.
tight. Yeah. That's crazy. I'm interested, having not been around horses, so this may sound like kind of stupid questions.
No stupid questions.
No, that's not true. There
I
are
actually-
stupid
Well,
just wait,
questions, but
Chelsea.
yeah,
Hold on.
just hang on. Just hang on. You haven't experienced anything yet. I'll tell you a story later about that, only because it'd be more relevant to you, and it's totally off base right now.
Yeah, we like to really stay on topic here. We don't
Yeah, we were. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not like we go all over the place. So dealing with the personalities of horses,
Yeah.
right? So I have to make a generalization or assumption that they're like other creatures or just like people, right? We have
Yeah.
different distinct personalities, temperaments, things like that. And how do you? When you're dealing with them and treating them like a partner, so you're talking about we talked about committing to them, communicating with them. What do you find most difficult, and how do you? I'm assuming you've learned to identify with your favorites or the different members of the herd or whatever. Like
Yeah.
who is the ornery one that's just got kind of the attitude,
Yeah.
and I got to talk him or her down type thing, or who's like the friendly, like, oh hi, oh look,
Yeah.
Alex came to visit, yay, I remember Alex from last time.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming they have. How about their like memory span and things like that,
they're-
recognition
yeah.
for people or other
Okay,
animals?
this is like the total opposite of a dumb question. This is
Okay.
a really good question. And
That makes me
I
feel so much
now
better,
have like
yeah.
17 ways I could answer.
Perfect.
The hardest thing
Mm-hmm.
is to work with the horse I have in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually like actively challenge myself to not buy into my perception of their personality too much, because like I don't know, we all grow and change, and different circumstances
Right.
come up.
All right, like I've always said with people, employees, people like, oh, this guy's a real pain. You're gonna have trouble with him. And I've told you, everyone starts with a clean slate with me because
Yeah.
he and I may get along famously, where he didn't get along with his last supervisor or
Yeah.
whatever.
I'm going to give you this just happened yesterday, so it's a recent example. You met Marty. He's a little halflinger.
Was it the one that had the short mane
Yes.
over to the left?
Yes.
Okay, I remember him. He was a beautiful,
Yes.
beautiful creature.
Okay, so in my brain, Marty is really busy-minded, and I see him as a horse who is almost like too smart for his own good. I see him as a horse who struggles to like be in the present moment. He's always like trying to figure out like, what can I do to get the thing that I want? That's how I see him in my head. Yesterday, I had a new volunteer out to the farm, and the horses are all shedding like crazy right now because it's now summer compared to it being 10 degrees out, negative 10 degrees
Yeah.
out, you know? And my experience with Marty has been that it's like he needs to get something for what he's giving. And I challenged myself to allow this volunteer to de-shed him with one of our shedding brushes. And in my head, I'm thinking, there's no way he's going to tolerate this without like a basket of special hay. Like I've just figured there's no way.
He's just spoiled, right? That's
He's
That's
just
your-
like so smart.
Yeah.
This is my perspective. He's so smart that he knows like I don't need to do this for nothing.
Right.
You know? So that
opportunist. He's an opportunist.
yeah.
Is
he's-
another way of saying that
Yeah.
that when I've complained in the past, I've gotten some hay, and so if I complain again, I'll get some hay, and then I just
Squeaky
don't
wheel
complain.
type thing, yeah.
Yeah, it's more of like he knows that he's not going to be forced to comply,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't want to make any of the horses comply, but he knows, okay, well, it's just like most of us don't work for free.
Right.
We work for pay, and so
Sure.
he's like, yeah, if you want me to do that thing, I'll do it happily, but I need payment.
Or at least in your experience with him.
Yes.
Right?
Okay. So I challenged myself to not say anything and not interfere. And this volunteer was able to groom him for like a half hour with no food bribery. And I texted his person and I was like, I need to stop thinking I know him. You know, like if I showed up with the energy of he's not going to tolerate this, of course he's not going to tolerate it. And so, yeah, my favorite thing about having new people to the farm is challenging my perspective of their personalities. That being said, they do all have their own personalities. But I try really hard to work with the horse that I have in front of
That
me.
could be a bond, just like people. We connect with certain people
Yeah.
better than others, or maybe not better, but in a different way.
Yeah, for sure.
So you have that volunteer come in and he or she just connects with Marty.
Yes.
For whatever reason, he's like, oh, cool. Yeah, groom me. Do your
Yeah.
thing. This is great. And be like, I come down there and it's like, pff, get lost.
Yeah, and
Get lost. I don't want to do it.
I'm so excited to go
You're a
ba-
dog person.
go-
Get away. You know, it's,
I'm so excited to go back and see if I go into but this is a hard thing. Like, it's hard to unknow the things you think you know. And so she got to go in, and what a gift, right? She got to go in with no preconceived notion, and that was the outcome, right?
Right.
And yeah, it's just super, super interesting. But there are some who I find to be, in general, more outgoing or more interested in interacting with people. There are some that prefer payment in advance, you know.
I need the hay, special hay now.
Yes,
Then I'll think
yeah.
about it. So they seem to be more intuitive than, I mean, much like dogs and other animals, more so than humans. We seem to lose that sense sometimes, or not totally aware of our abilities to be intuitive.
Well, and
they seem to be able to pick out.
Yeah, and it makes good
Folks.
sense, right? Because we're predators.
Right.
So they have to be able to, like, evaluate the situation, right? A tiger in the wild, not that horses are being chased by tigers anywhere that I'm aware of, but a
Definitely
tiger,
not in Africa.
Sounds like a good movie concept right here. Yeah.
a tiger in the wild is going to be like, oh, yeah, no, I'm just watching you.
Yeah.
I would never attack you. That's
Yeah.
not a thing.
It's okay, gazelle. It's all right.
Yeah, like, I'm not planning to
Gazelle's
do
like,
that.
what the heck is the tiger pack doing around here?
Yeah, and so then when we go into an interaction with a horse and we're going, well, I think this is what's going to happen. I think that's what's going to happen. That's predator behavior. That's not being in the moment. That's,
Right.
you know, so it makes really good sense from
That's-
like a functional evolutionary perspective that they have to be in tune with our energy because that has kept them alive for millions of years. And they lived such a long time without humans. We think we're
Right.
like so important to them.
Right.
Like 4.5 million years they were doing just fine without us, and then like we pop in and we're like, we're gonna fix everything for
We're going
you.
to throw this
It's
piece
just-
of leather on you,
Yeah,
and life
it's
is
just
great, and jump over some colored sticks,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
crazy. This is interesting. I'm really enjoying your perspectives because I see it again relating horses to dogs,
Yeah.
right? But another creature that's pretty smart, and I'm just kind of analyzing now. It's a busy mind, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, what do I do with my guys? You know, what am I doing with the dogs, and how do I maybe improve that communication or
Yeah.
behavior, or how I just approach them?
Yeah.
It's
It's interesting. The other thing, when you first asked that question that I forgot I wanted to
number
reflect
73,
on.
right? Okay.
What?
You had 72 different answers.
Yeah,
number
I did.
73,
Yeah. So different than like a dog, like dogs are in most cases, you get a dog when they're a puppy and they stay a part of your family for their whole life, right? And they interact with the people in your house, and like maybe people come over your house or they see someone out on the street. Horses, there are very few horses that are lucky enough to stay with one family their whole
Yeah.
life. And so, and then even when they have a person of their own, very often there are other people taking care of them. And all of those different people have different expectations
Right.
of what like acceptable behavior is. And so then I wonder how much that affects their personalities, that they're always having to exist within this like, okay, what is Alex gonna allow me to do in terms of appropriate behavior? What's Chelsea going to allow me to do? What's
Right.
Rich going to allow me to do? And like horses would be lucky if they only had to interact with 3 people,
Sure.
but most of them don't have that circumstance.
Yeah,
Most of,
for people say, and not being a horse owner or a horse person, they're like, well, I sold my horse.
Yeah.
And to me, that's like unthinkable.
Yeah.
Like,
Unthinkable.
If I have a
You've
horse,
never
I've
heard somebody say, "I sold my dog."
dog,
I mean,
right?
yeah, people
Yes,
use
they
dogs
do,
up for a
but
dog,
but
yeah.
but
it
yeah,
happens
just
way less.
yeah. But
Yeah.
it seems like people I've seen, and somebody says, well, they're not like dogs or cats. They're not. I was like, yeah, but that's maybe me. If they're in my family, they're in my family type thing.
This is why I love
And,
talking to
yeah.
non-horse people. Because
Yeah.
horse people are like, yeah, of course, they don't do what I need them to do anymore, so they go somewhere else. It's like,
That's the tool mentality. It's,
yeah,
sort of,
honestly,
right?
I think if you were to like ask horse people, do you think your horse is a tool? They would say no.
Right.
But then when their horse can't jump over sticks as high as they want to jump over,
I don't need this horse
then they're like,
anymore.
oh,
There's-
well, this horse isn't the right horse for me, and I need a
Right.
different horse.
Right. well, it's about you, not the horse.
Yeah.
You want to jump over sticks with somebody doing all the work or most of the work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that the partner you have is not doing it,
Yeah,
so it's he or she's no good anymore. That's
I
kinda
think it has to do with the cost
just,
associated, right?
It's big expense.
Yeah, my poor husband. Our dog was about to run out of food, and the delivery hadn't come yet. And he went to the store to pick her up some food, and the food I get her is quite expensive. And he was really surprised to see that it was like $120 for a 30-pound bag or whatever.
Right.
That's like nothing to horse people. Like
Right.
it costs thousands of dollars a month to take care of horses.
Right.
It's very, very expensive. And I think that people go, okay, well, if I'm going to spend $1,000 a month at minimum, I better get the things out of it
Sure.
that I want to
It's an
get out of
economic
it.
return, right?
Yeah. And so people don't see it the same way.
So maybe and this is like a really, really silly comparison, but I was just talking to somebody about all you can eat buffets where they go in there and they say, I spent, $22.50
Yes.
for whatever. I need to eat $22.50
Yes.
worth of food
Exactly.
in my mind. I'm like,
Yes.
no, why don't you just go get a variety of what you like
Yes.
and enjoy the experience?
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter that you've eaten 17 plates
Yeah.
to try to get the maximum value. And so I kind of think of the same way, like, but then again, different perspective, not a horse person. I'm like, I would be more like, oh, here's my horse. We can ride. We can do whatever.
Yeah.
I will take care of the horse because that's why I would own it.
Yes.
That's why I would own it. But
Yeah.
maybe I'm not like maybe I'm not a good horse person. Maybe that's
No,
what,
you're a better horse person than
Yeah.
a lot of horse people.
Oh.
And I always tell people like I prefer people that are not horse people because they challenge circumstances like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
They show up and they go, well, that doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. And it's just something that's so like normalized in the
Right,
horse field
right.
that no one is like, oh, no one would ever be like, that's abusive. No, never in a million
Right.
years. They'd be like, yeah, of course you're selling your horse, you know?
Right.
And, even if people say a horse is staying in your family,
Mm-hmm.
very often horses move from barn to barn, or at minimum, the staff at the barn change, or, working in therapeutic horsemanship, it's like different volunteers all the time.
Mm-hmm.
A horse needs to be like pretty confident to be okay with multiple people handling them at a
Right.
time. Like that's a pretty big ask. I saw online one time somebody compared a horse showing up at a new barn to like a child showing up at a new foster home. Like you don't
Yeah,
know,
right.
like when are they going to feed me here?
Sure.
Like what am I going to have access
Who's
to?
going to treat me well? Are these
Yeah.
people nice?
Are they
Who-
trustworthy?
What are they thinking about?
And they
Right.
don't. And that's what when I was saying before. Like it's a privilege to take care of them.
Yeah.
They're not choosing. You know what kind of turnout situation I would like to have, and
Yeah.
I want this horse to be my neighbor, and I want to eat these things. They don't have
Yeah.
that autonomy in a lot of cases in like the domestic circumstances we've created for them, and so then they do develop behaviors that we would prefer that they not have, and it's kind of like, well, duh. You
Mm-hmm. Right.
know,
No
Sure.
kidding.
my horse Jack, he raced for 4.5 years, and he had 6 owners before I got
Oh,
him.
wow. Wow.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I was going
How
to
many
say.
jockeys?
Right.
Oh,
More than 4.
he raced 42 times.
I'm,
So
wow.
Potentially
Wow.
42 jockeys.
yeah,
So,
and he
so he's like a
raced-
rescue? Is that what he's? Or he's not, he's out because he's not suitable to race anymore, right? So
Yeah.
he's not physically able to, or he's not as fast.
Yeah, so he had a fracture and a bone in his leg, and he was lucky to retire at a track in New Jersey called Parks, and they have this program called Turning for Home, where they
Oh.
partner with local nonprofits to
Sure.
place racehorses in safe circumstances. So it's not technically a rescue,
Right,
and
but-
thoroughbred people would be very offended by the premise that
You're right.
that they're being rescued from
Again,
racing.
you know, just okay, be offended.
That offends
but
their-
Because they don't think they're doing anything wrong.
Right, and I'm not saying they're doing anything wrong, but if I don't know what the alternative, I'm again the ignorant
Yeah.
non-horse person asking a question, trying to relate that to his experiences. So, yeah, again, just different people, different perspectives. I think you're probably like me. If I had a horse, it'd be for life.
Yeah.
And then I'd be like, Alex, get the backhoe up here. Lightning's gone. You know, we're gonna bury it in the backyard type
Yeah,
thing.
yep.
That's what I'd
And
be doing. Or actually, Reed, our former coworker, had done that. Gentleman had a farm, and he'd call up because I'm not going to make it in today. I've got to bury a horse. You know.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, that's our
that was- it's
that's
kind
my
of
whole
like-
perspective, right?
Right.
I'm not looking to get a dog to do something for me. I'm
Right.
looking to get
a friend, companion,
a companion,
Yeah.
somebody who to join my
your
family
your activities,
and my
and
wife's family, right?
and bother the cats. And
So
things like
implicit
that,
in
yeah.
that is that we're gonna, bother the cats for sure. Although
Her and the cats are buddies now.
the,
Right? Yeah,
the
yeah.
cats are bullying her. These little 8-pound balls are bullying this 95-pound Doberman. Another topic for another
Yeah.
time, but
Fun with animals,
yeah, no,
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
implicit in my thinking. It's funny because you're doing a good job helping me understand some concepts through this. I can see how the horse environment can help you explain some of these concepts because you've helped me understand intentionality. And you used another word that I sort of shy away from because it's trendy sometimes and I don't really understand it either. It's being present.
Yeah.
But I understood from listening to you that being present means paying attention to the other person, and instead of like me doing what I want to do, is I start to sort of negotiate with you based on how you're reacting to me, on what we do, not what I want to do, but she wants to talk about ice cream. Okay, we're gonna talk a little bit about ice cream, and then maybe later she'll let me talk about cars with her. So we negotiate, and that's being present, right? So the allowing of the interaction back and forth is how I understood you to say that. But gosh, I lost my way a little bit. But I think all I was trying to say is that implicit in my whole theme is, I want a friend for life.
Right.
Like, you're joining my family. You're gonna,
Right, and that's where you and I are coming from. But
Yeah.
again, other
Yeah.
people have different needs, and
Yeah.
different expectations.
And
well,
you
you
know-
can't sleep with a horse, right? You can't
Right.
invite the horse to sleep in the bed
Unless you're a
It's too
peasant in the
daunting.
Middle Ages. Yeah,
maybe.
yes.
or part of a Godfather movie or something.
So yeah, oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that I really
So you're not interacting with the horse as much, so you can have some emotional distance if you're treating it as a tool. But
Yeah, I think one of the things that I really struggle with in this space is I don't know what the appropriate boundary is between, like, I really feel very strongly about like how horses deserve to be cared for, but you know, you attract more flies with honey than you do with vinegar, and so
Right.
I do feel like this pull where I go, okay, well, I don't want to make people feel ashamed for having to make like a hard decision.
Right.
I want to believe that people are doing the best that they know how, but then how do you also challenge the
The
best that
thinking,
they know
right,
how
yeah.
to think differently about it?
Right.
And I know if I get too loud about it, then I turn out to be that kooky horse lady, and she's like way too far on the crunchy granola side to even listen. So like I
yeah.
love having these kinds of conversations, but I do wonder about like how to have these conversations in the horse space, because it affects change.
Maybe
there.
you don't need to have the conversation at all, because
Yeah.
when I was with you at the farm at Factum Equine,
You're really good at that. Thank you so much. You're just
well, you need to
I'm
be
not good at it.
celebrated.
I'm not-
Factum Equine
Yep.
needs to be celebrated, and that's
501c3.
what you're doing is
is phenomenal. It's important.
you know, yeah, phenomenal, important, everything Rich just said, but it's more than that. It's magical in some very real sense. Anyway, going back to it, I think that if you had, so just for clarity, she brought us in, she sat us down, we talked a little bit, then we went to see the horses, right? If you had never sat me down and if we had just gone to see the horses, your love of those animals would have become apparent. And so maybe the conversation isn't necessary because you're demonstrating what the caring, loving behavior is.
I'm very uncomfortable with compliments, but I'm going to say thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, there's definitely, we hear your passion too. I've not
Yeah.
seen the farm, and I need to get down there. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
you
have to.
should.
He keeps
Oh
saying,
my
you got to come
God.
down and visit. I'm like, I guess we're going to go down and see the farm. We're going to see the seaplane port. We're going
Yeah.
to do it
Yeah.
all, right?
Yeah.
That's just something else we're working on.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, Alex.
No.
Just
It gave me a second to try to.
Yeah, you might be right about that. Like just
Oh, I know what I wanted to say. So, moments a bit ago, you talked about how for the first 20 years of working in this field, broadly speaking, you thought a different way, and then slowly, maybe through Jack, interactions with Jack, you came to a different, deeper appreciation, right? Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is the folks that we're being a little bit hard on for, hey, you're treating this animal in the suboptimal way. Maybe they are where you were
Yeah.
20 years ago.
yeah, and I have empathy for that.
Right.
Yeah.
Because ignorance, right?
Yeah.
Ignorance is not evil.
You
Ignorance
know
is just
better.
yeah.
right.
You do better when you know better.
And how many bad pieces of
Right.
advice have they received
Yeah.
Sure.
from trainers or
Yes.
breeders or
Yeah.
friends, and-
Well-meaning people that again aren't educated to what is best
Yeah.
or what would be optimal.
Yeah,
Right?
for sure.
Yeah.
Because there's levels of suboptimal, right? There's the you're not engaging with the horse as deeply as you can. That's one level, and that's sort of like peak Maslow, right?
Yeah, that's where I get to be, and it's a gift.
It's a
but,
gift, right?
Yeah.
But then below that, there's another level where you're like, oh, I forgot to feed it every day. And then there's a level below that where you're like beating it, right? So there's levels
Yeah.
of not treating a horse right,
Yeah.
and we're kind of talking about it like just if there's 10 levels, making up a number. If there's 10 levels, we're kind of talking about people who are between 7 and 9
Yeah.
and could move up to 10.
Yeah.
We're not even talking about the people who abuse these
Yeah.
animals,
Yes.
right? So. Anyway, so my first point is maybe you don't have to talk about it because it shines through just from being around you and being around your farm and how clean it was, and you need to see it. She's at the peak of a ridge.
Oh, nice.
And some power lines are relatively close, not close, but relatively close. So you have this vista, this long vista with trees on each side, and the horse stalls are lined up, and then they kind of make an L around the barn, and everything's tidy, and none of the wood is rotten, and everything's well lit, and it just looks good. It looks like a nice.
I wanted to
place
see it
where-
now. I've met
where
you
the
and-
animals are
and-
live happy.
And I sense your passion, and like Alex was saying, kind of another way to look at that is and I'm going to lead into something else too, as I usually do. You're living your passion, you're living your values, what you care about. You're exhibiting that through your behaviors and what you're doing as a profession. And again, that's kind of the underscoring of the show. That's what we're trying to do with our young people: live your values. and you're living a lot of the values we try to teach them as well, with being helpful and kind, and trustworthy, and friendly, and all these things are coming into play. Those are our scouting values. There's 12, and then are some of our points, and he's got the cheat sheet there.
This is a coin that he gave me that has all the scouting values on the back of it. I don't know if you need your
Which are
Yeah.
yeah, kind of words
Yeah.
words to live by, for sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, and that's what you're doing. You're kind of living a lot of the values we're instilling or introducing young people to
Yeah.
be better citizens.
Yeah, you know what? I
And
didn't think of that. There's a parallel between
There is.
kind of what scouting's trying to do, what we're trying to do,
What she's
trying
doing.
to do.
And she said something earlier, and I kind of smiled a little bit. And you talked about something like, I just want to go get like the mechanic, and that's kind of the line that we used, is that good, honest mechanic, it's not going to rip you off. You said,
Yeah.
like, charge you $99 for nothing. It's not going to rip you off. We just want to create like honest citizens and participating
Yeah.
citizens who are just going to treat people respectfully, treat animals well.
Yeah.
And I remember as a scout myself, there's something that really struck me, and a scout is kind. And there used to be Norman
That's why
Rockwell.
Brett, a scout is kind.
Yep.
Norman Rockwell used to do calendars and things,
Yeah.
right? Saturday Evening Post, he did calendars for scouting. He was the official artist for them for years. And there's an old painting. I remember it was titled "Scout is Kind." He did all the values, and it shows this is like from the '40s. So you get the kid with the big, Smokey Bear hat on
Yeah.
and the scarf. He's down at a crate, where there's a dog being shipped on train or something, which is maybe not the way we do that nowadays, right? But they're shipping this dog via crate to, whatever, and he's holding a pan of water down, so the dog can have a refreshing drink and stay hydrated. And those things have resonated with the images.
Yeah.
We learn about it and you see that, and that's kind of like you're doing that every day with your horses, and that's very cool. So I did get to do a little promotional consideration right here too. So as we didn't mention at the beginning, we are brought to everybody by the Western Massachusetts Council of Scouting America. Google Western Mass Scouting. You will find out all kinds of exciting things we're doing. And it's the picture of our patch on the center screen on the wonderful set we have here. And please do check us out. We have
Speaking
some
of-
great
of-
programs for again, young people, kindergarten through 20, and various age groups. And some of those include, horsemanship is one of the things they can do work on. And in fact, there's something we wanted to do at camp last year. We had a few ideas for the future equestrian studies or equestrian day.
Yeah.
To introduce the kids to horsemanship.
Yeah, we used to host at the therapeutic center I worked at. We used to host scouts all the time
Nice.
for groups to get their badges, and then we had a lot of Eagle Scout projects.
Yes.
Like building really neat tools for our like sensory trails, and
very
it's
cool.
really, really cool. Yeah.
So how are you on time? Because I know you had a set amount of time. Are you getting close to that time?
I know I feel okay.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah,
'cause
we're about
I'm
a half
having
hour
blast,
left.
And I
Yeah.
want to talk
Yeah,
more
no,
about
Yeah,
that.
you're coming back. You don't get a vote.
Perfect.
You're coming back. We're both enjoying learning about you and your
Maybe
farm.
after you come visit the farm.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
Definitely. And we get nice weather now too, and
Yeah.
I'm not able to worry about skidding off the road somewhere into the Connecticut River. Like, hey, sorry, I'm not going to make it. Crazy weather.
It was a rough.
It's a weird winter. It was a weird winter. It
was
started off
bad.
mild, then it went nuts.
And last year it was weird too. Remember we
Yeah.
had all those floods in Connecticut that destroyed farmers' fields
Yes.
and stuff?
Yeah, that was another weird
when
one.
I have a pit bull puppy who's a rescue, and I went to pick her up at her foster home, like right near where all those floods happened, and I remember being so surprised
Mm-hmm.
at how much damage was done. It's wild.
And how hard it must have been because, I guess from what I understood from the reporting, the water could have contaminants. So, like, if it gets into the food, you have to destroy the food even if the water didn't destroy
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
So you just have to throw good
Yeah.
good
Yeah,
corn or
that's
good wheat or whatever it is.
When
you
in doubt,
away.
throw it out.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah.
That's got to be super sad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So, Jack,
yeah.
Yeah.
let me throw you into that conversation with this. So my Doberman, she came to me when she was 3.5 years old. She came to me from a rescue in New Hampshire called Doberman Rescue Unlimited, which is an incredible facility that gives me the same kind of feelings that I had when I came to your place. It was really hard at first. She had some really strange behaviors. She bit both my wife and I. She bit us multiple times, nipped, right? Because, and it was always when there was another dog around, and she wanted to get at that dog, maybe to protect us, maybe because of something she experienced. I don't know. But obviously, we're holding her back from going at the dog. She freaks out and bites us because we're not letting her go at the dog. So very strange behaviors, very un-puppy-like behavior. Well, I guess not, but... and then, we worked with her, and then finally, the week that we were going to give her back, I watched a podcast, and the host was talking about how good diet can make a difference in your horse's, in your dog's behavior. Doberman Planet is the podcast. That's all he does, right? And so we changed her diet to a better quality diet, and it was miraculous. She stopped. She acted differently. Now that didn't change everything, right? But that was 2.5 years ago, and since then, she's oh, well, okay. So here's what I really want to say. That was all prologue, but here's what I really want to say. I read an article that said that you can train a dog out of fear. You can train a dog with food, and if you're really lucky, you can help the dog understand that they do stuff for you out of love. And I know that sounds a little granola crunchy, like you said, right? But I got it in my head.
You got the right audience here.
Yeah.
Good. I love preaching to the choir. And that was my goal. And you know what? I think she's moving around in that direction. She's not as enthusiastic about food anymore. She's not as enthusiastic about snacks. She's much more 90% responsive, let's say, to commands without any sort of treat, right? And she seeks proximity with both me and my wife, which I think is a real Doberman falling in love behavior. So that's how I can relate to anything you talk to me about Jack, right? It's been far too long since I was around horses, and I wasn't. It's interesting what you said, because I didn't have relationships with individual horses. I was working at a horse farm in Cheshire called Hunter's Glen, and I was mucking stalls and doing that kind of thing. But I didn't become friends with individual horses. I was one of those substitute people that came in and out of their lives to muck their stalls and stuff like that. So that's how I understand my Doberman falling in love with me, and that's how I understand behavior. So can you help me understand behavior in horses and Jack and some of your path with that? Over.
Yeah, so Jack really perplexed me. When I got him, I had a decent amount of experience working with young off-the-track thoroughbreds, and I preferred working with off-the-track thoroughbreds over other breeds of horses because they're incredibly smart. They demand clarity. They're very bright, and so I wanted one. And there was something, it was weird. I saw Jack on Facebook, and I wasn't looking for a horse,
Right.
but I was like,
That's him.
I
want
gotta go
this.
meet that horse.
I did that with my dog. I
Yeah.
adopted. I need that dog.
Yeah.
Something about it, right?
Something. And
Wow.
God bless my husband, who just is
Just rolls with
he
it.
just
right?
knows that you can't be like, nope, we're not getting the horse.
Yeah, where are you at? Oh no, I'm in the truck getting it ready for you, Chelsea.
Yeah.
Let's go. Yeah.
So we went to visit him. He was a total sassafras. He did not really pass his.
This is a family show. I'd
Yeah,
ask
yeah.
you to watch it. Sassafras. You
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
My goodness.
Yeah. He did not pass his pre-purchase exam with flying colors. By all accounts, I probably should not have adopted him. And I just couldn't stop myself. So I did, and I brought him home, and
Because of health concerns or behaviors?
both. Yeah. Our when we did our pre-purchase exam, it's a pretty lengthy evaluation of the horse by a veterinarian to elucidate any issues that they might have physically, so that you know what you're getting into. And
When people buy a collector's card, they often perform a pre-purchase
yeah,
inspection.
okay,
Right.
yeah,
There you go.
perfect, yeah,
home inspections. Same
Yeah.
idea, right?
yeah. So
Checking it out.
I'm at this farm in New Jersey, and I'm riding him, and they asked me to pick up a canner, and I did, and he just took off galloping and was wheeling around this arena. And all I kept thinking was, I can't fall off in front of a veterinarian. Like, I just can't.
Yeah.
I can't fall off. And she was really kind, and they were all lovely, like, okay, good for you for staying on. And then her pre-purchase was sort of like, yeah, there was some stuff going on there. But I didn't care, to be truthful. I didn't care. And then I brought him home, and he was like pretty explosive, like dangerous behaviors, like very dangerous behaviors. Getting bitten was like a very regular occurrence. I got kicked on multiple occasions badly. Our property owner was kicked very badly and couldn't walk, had to go to physical therapy. So like very big explosive behaviors, which like for a 1,000-pound animal, it's dangerous.
Yeah.
It is. So he went to Tufts. He got like a significant evaluation. He was there for almost a week. We spent a lot of money trying to figure out what was wrong with him. We came up with some answers. We did some rehab. We did some injections, so on and so forth. He got a little bit better, but he still wasn't like happy, and he wasn't pleasant to be around. And he certainly didn't like me very much. And then I went down the whole diet path, and I still rely on the information I learned, and now I have a certification in equine holistic nutrition, which
Awesome.
I'm super,
Very cool.
another crunchy thing that he taught me. But I did all these things, and it was like, fix this, fix that, tinker, 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 you know, like, okay, I'm going to fix this little thing, and we're going to inject that joint, and we're going to spend this money, we're going to do this thing. And we totally like overhauled his entire living situation. And he still was just like not happy. And I finally had a really hard conversation with my veterinarian about behavioral euthanasia, because I felt like I can't, like, I'm putting professionals at risk interacting with him. I was really, and it wasn't safe for me. And they agreed that that was a reasonable option. And then I connected with my now mentor, Nicole Burkholzer, who does animal communication, which is like super crunchy granola. And I was definitely like, you know, not on board with it. She really helped me realize that he was screaming at me to change my behavior and to work on myself. And I was doing all this stuff to manage him, and I wasn't doing anything to manage
Give us an
myself.
example. What's a behavior you were doing that he was screaming at you to change?
Oh, like if I wanted to put his blanket on, which is like a very normal, like everyday kind of occurrence, he would like bite the blanket or me aggressively. And then if by some miracle I got the blanket on him, he would rear it off of him. So his legs would be, you know, he'd be like perpendicular to the ground. And then here I am like, I'm just trying to keep you warm and cozy, friend. That's a really serious oppositional behavior. And now I would never let something escalate to that point. But he was giving me all these sort of cues, and I was like, sit down and shut up and let me put your blanket on, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, so then I started on this sort of path of like really being thoughtful about what was going on for me when he was having these oppositional behaviors, and what requests I was making of him that were overfacing him, or what sort of boundaries I was repeatedly violating for
So
him.
it's a change in your behavior to change his behavior. Is that
Yes.
sort of what I'm hearing? Yeah.
Yeah, because like, you know, imagine being a racehorse is not an easy job. I was able to connect with some of his folks that he knew on the track, and they were like, yeah, he used to walk around on his hind feet all the time. And I was like, okay, so this is a pattern of he knows nobody is going to listen to him unless he escalates to this level of behavior. So it wasn't like, oh, he's never bitten someone before. It was like, yeah, he's been doing that.
Pattern behavior.
Yeah. And how sad that he learned that he had to escalate to that behavior in order for someone to listen. And so then I spent like months doing absolutely nothing with him, having no expectations. And I would just go on days where I felt emotionally well enough to do so, I would just go and sit. And like, I'm just going to show up here, and I'm not going to ask anything of you, but I'm not going to go away. And then things started to shift like little by little, and I can't like identify a day where I was like, we're cured, and we're not cured, right? We still have work to do together. But it was a long journey of really intentionally and thoughtfully showing up and being so painstakingly patient and prioritizing my mental state in a way that I had never done before. Yeah, and now he's like everyone at the farm thanks him every day because it's like a ripple effect. Like he taught me these things and he still is teaching me, like always teaching me things. But then all these other horses and all these other humans like get to benefit from the things that he's teaching me. And I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years before I took over the farm, my mentor in a communication session told me, Jack says you guys are going to do this work together someday. And I was like, yeah, okay, lady. Because we were still,
Right.
I was like, there's no way that that's going to happen. Yeah, I feel like he's got like the wisdom of like 1,000 years. He's just a really special creature, and it's an honor to be his person. It's not easy.
Yeah.
And Jack's,
But it's much better.
It's so much better.
Yes,
He's
that's
like
good.
so lovely and so fun. He still is he has very strong boundaries and he will call anyone out on any day.
Right.
So he's not the sort of horse that I can be like, any person goes to interact with him. He will be reactive to, and that's his right. So very often when I do wellness programming, I'll tell people this about him, and they'll self-select to not go in with him, which I think is really smart. And that's they're honoring where they're at when I couldn't honor where I was at with him.
Right.
So yeah, he's just a really special animal.
Very
Yeah,
cool.
It's a gift.
Yeah.
and you didn't say everything you said today, but you did say we may not go into his enclosure. Let's just see how it goes. And he wasn't very interested in meeting us, unlike the other horses, which were like, hey, who's these guys?
Yeah.
But Jack was like,
Yeah, I feel like he senses the people that need his level of intervention, and then he knows other horses can get this job done. They don't need to. I just think he knows more than I know or any of us know. So I just trust him to know who to engage with and who not to engage with, and it's not coming from like a judgmental place. It's similar actually to the idea I shared before that I'm not for everyone, and that's okay. He knows
Right.
he's not for everyone.
Sure. He is who he is,
Yeah,
right?
he is, and he's very bold and confident about who he is, and he's not going to change who he is to make someone else comfortable, which is probably something I could learn from. We
A
could
lot
all
of
learn
us,
from.
a lot of us could, right? We all do it. We have to
Yeah.
fit into the mold here. It's be yourself.
Yeah, yeah,
well, remember in college, that was one of the psychological concepts that we learned about. You meet a person. And so I'm watching you. I just met you. I'm watching you. And you do something. Maybe you look to the left, right? And I interpret that behavior as oh, man, she just looked to the left. I was talking to her and she's not interested in me.
Yeah.
So I better really pep up my dialogue because she's not even paying attention. She looked to the left. Meanwhile, I'm ascribing meaning to that behavior
Yes.
that you're not ascribing.
yes,
And so the concept, it was something to do with a three-part mirror. The concept was that I see you doing behavior, and then I interpret that behavior as to be related to me, and then
Yeah.
I try to modify myself to suit.
yeah,
And that's a fallacy.
Yeah.
But it's a partially unavoidable fallacy because if you meet somebody, you have to interact with them, and to interact with them, you have to watch them, and you have to ascribe some value to their behaviors.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there's some easy ones if I pinch you and you're like, "Ow, jerk," clear. I'll stop pinching you, right?
Yeah.
But if it's much more subtle, then it becomes very complex.
yeah. I think I try with. It's funny, with horse behavior, I can be very objective and just report, okay, this is the behavior that's occurring, period. And then not subscribe to this horse is a certain way because of their behavior, but I find that I do that more easily with humans, where I go, okay, well, he pinched me, so he's a jerk. Isn't that funny? I don't do that to animals, but I do it to people.
It's not. It is. Of course, it's funny. It's very it's very funny, but it's also quite understandable, right?
Yeah.
Because we have expectations of each other. Those expectations are called social mores.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And you have just the way you said that Jack has a right to be himself. In essence, that's
Yeah.
kind of what you said. We're supposed to all be living in a society, and there's some rules. Sometimes they're called laws that we all have to abide by.
Yeah.
Right. So if I cut you off and hit your car as I'm passing you in traffic, I'm violating a rule that you have a right. We say in
Yeah.
America, at least, we say
Yeah.
you have a right to expect me not to hit you as I'm passing you down the road.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's of course, a very strong example, but maybe you have a right to expect. I don't know, I'll use something that's falling out of favor. Maybe you have the right to expect me to open the door for you. Or maybe you have the right to expect me not to ever open the door for you, right? But these things are so subtle that you have to allow some room for negotiation. And that's what you're describing.
Yeah.
You're describing that gap between what we are clearly allowed to expect and what is
Yeah.
a little more obscure and maybe requires negotiation.
Yeah. And I wonder, you talking got me thinking, I wonder if I'm more flexible with equine behavior because they don't have a choice in domestication, right? So like we as humans, like we're choosing
Our interactions
like
are-
I chose to come here today,
That's
right?
right.
I could have been like, no thanks, Alex, I'm not coming, whatever.
That's
I
right.
chose to be here. And so
that gives you a right, because you expect that I understand that you made a choice that's beneficial or courteous to me. Now you perhaps have the right to expect me to be courteous to you or
Right.
something along those lines.
yeah, but the horses didn't pick where they're living or who
Right.
their person is or
Sure,
what their
or what
circumstances.
6 people they have, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so then maybe I have a different sort of threshold for willingness to understand or tolerate behavior because they didn't get to pick to be part of it. I don't know. That's something I'll think about.
And did you want to?
No, I'm just thinking. Actually, you're obviously watching my mind work through eye motions or
Well, I
something.
can see
Yeah,
your mind on the television.
it's on the monitor. The one below. Yeah. No, I didn't have anything. I'm sorry.
That, to me, what you're talking about really goes back to horses don't lie, right? Because Lisa was concerned about this, not concerned, but Lisa was interested in this concept of why are human interactions so complex? Well, we just talked for 10 minutes about expectations versus communication versus this or that. And if I as a human received certain treatment at pivotal, I think it was Piaget, but it might have been Maslow. I don't remember. But somebody said that 1 through 7 is so crucial, right?
Yeah.
So if I received the type of treatment, thinking about Jack, where, and I see it in stores sometimes, right? Like the kid will be in the shopping cart and the kid will be like, Mom, 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 many, many times. After 7 times, the mom responds. And I'm always thinking to myself, like, dude, you're training the kid to have to ask 7 times,
Yeah.
right? But if I received inattention where I had to act out and then I got attention, I'm going to learn a pretty crappy lesson that I'm
Yeah.
going to apply subconsciously.
Yes.
And Jack, right? Back to Jack. Our human, and it's not simplifying, right? Like we're
No.
complexifying the interaction between human beings now, where so much of our interaction is electronic. I spend a lot of time on Teams. It's unavoidable. I have customers all over the world. I'm trying to make myself sound important or anything like that, but I have customers all over the place, right? And it's simply impractical for me to travel to them.
Yeah, of course.
So I am now missing out on visual clues,
Yeah.
facial clues, and all
Yep.
that kind of stuff. So we're making it even harder to understand each
Yeah.
other. No wonder that we run off to the simple click, mental reward, click, mental reward.
Yeah.
That is such an easily definable, it's like video games when we were kids, right? When I was a kid anyways, you understand that. I
Yeah.
do this stuff, I get this good thing, I'm doing good.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't know where I'm going with that, but human behavior is very complex, and there's a reason for that, right?
Yeah.
Humans lie. Humans hide. Humans feel shame. Sometimes they feel shame incorrectly for things that they shouldn't, and so they lie and hide and things like that. But animals are much more honest. Animals don't feel those things. They're very straightforward, which is why I like that statement of yours. I was drawn to it, right?
Yeah.
I don't know where I'm going, but react to me if you want to.
Yeah, I think like that's part of why it feels so refreshing to interact with horses. And I think there's a lot of applications. If you know a horse can't lie and these are the ways that the horse is making you feel, then how could you apply those feelings that you have with the horse who can't lie to your interactions with humans then? And that's what in my wellness programming, that's stuff that I get to be curious about. So like we know the horse can't lie, but you're still interpreting the horse's behavior in this way, and why could that be? Right? There are probably
What's inside of you that's
Yes.
making you
What's
respond?
what's
Yeah.
what's causing you to misinterpret
Yeah.
that horse's intentions or behaviors?
Yeah, like, and how much like ascribing behavior do you do in your human interactions that could be inaccurate as well? If it happens all the time, people go like, that horse seems really angry. And I'm thinking, and I don't think that they're angry. And that doesn't mean that I'm right and they're wrong. It just, that tells me something about their interpretation. And I wonder then if those folks are going out into the world and presuming that humans are angry, or perhaps they've had a lot of experience with humans where humans were angry. And so their first assumption is that other living beings are going to be angry. And that's something to unpack.
They come by it honestly, just like we do, right?
Yeah.
It's like people treat you poorly.
Yeah.
You're expecting it's a stereotype, and they're developing those as well. Maybe.
Yeah.
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 That last comment is so interesting. I'm sorry. I don't know if I should give you the context or the comment first, but I'll give you the comment first and maybe just a shade of context. Earlier in this conversation, I heard you talking about horses, and I thought to myself, that's interesting. Some of the things that she's saying sounds like she's
Oh,
anthropomorphizing.
yes. Say more. Yeah.
Some of the things she's saying sounds like she's anthropomorphizing horses. And just now, with the anger comment, you gave an example which I feel like is kind of a count. And I understood why you gave those anthropomorphic descriptions of what the horse was feeling. But just now, you gave me an example where a human was anthropomorphizing the animal in an incorrect way, in a projecting kind of way. So the context I was talking about is Patrick O'Brien is an author. He wrote a series. It's called the Aubrey Maturin series, very famous among geeks like me. And it's 20 books, and in the books are all set in 1800 to 1830. They do a lot of anthropomorphization, a lot. At that moment in time, humans used pictures of what human behave like to describe animal behavior, and in my mind, you're both sort of using anthropomorphization, which is ascribing human characteristics to non-human
Attributing those
animals.
to animals
Yeah.
Or physical.
or cars,
Or-
yeah, exactly. Yes, people do that as well. Yes.
And so I heard you sort of suggesting that there's moments when anthropomorphization is valuable and moments when it isn't. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I love talking about anthropomorphizing. So when I personally am interacting with horses, I have to be really intentional about not anthropomorphizing them. And that's where like the species-centric approach and understanding as much as I can without being a horse myself
Right.
about how horses behave and how horses think and how horses problem solve is like absolutely essential to everyday care. But when I shift into like wellness facilitator mode, whatever your interpretation is of a horse behavior is valuable information to me, and it's not.
But it's valuable about me, not the
Yes,
horse.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So it's not my job to correct you unless we're in a horsemanship class, right? If we're in a horsemanship class, then we will have conversations about like, well, look at their ears and look at their nostrils and look at their eyes and how slow they're, like, we would look
That
at
would
all
be more
those
factual information rather than,
Yes.
yeah,
In
perceptions.
a wellness
Yeah.
session, if you were to say to me, like, wow, that horse is really mad, I'm not going to go, well, Alex, that horse is not mad. And I can tell that because of XYZ. I might go, interesting, tell me why you think they're mad. And then that information tells me something about your interpretation of your surroundings. So it's not actually about whether the horse is mad or not mad. It's about you interpret things in that certain way, and that gives me valuable information as a practitioner. And then I might be able to challenge that way of thinking or learn more about that way of thinking. But it is a funny line between relating to humans but also respecting that horses are not humans. It is a line.
So I heard you just sort of talking about the piece where anthropomorphization is tells you more about the human in the situation and is sort of useful as a tool for that. Can you talk more a little bit about, so you touched on it very briefly. You said, I try to understand horses as horses to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
But earlier in the conversation, sometimes you had to use a human term. You had to say things like oppositional behavior is the first one that comes to my mind, right? And I can see how that term is somewhat generic and dissociated from humans. It's sort of like a broad category.
Yeah.
Could have humans in it, but clearly it can have purely horses in that category or groups of behavior. When is it valuable in understanding a horse, or is it ever valuable in understanding a horse to think about those human behaviors and relate them to yourself? Does that question make sense? Or
Yeah,
is
it's
it new
just a really
refining?
big question.
Is it?
I think, but in a good way. I think that in many cases, and I would never promote like intentional anthropomorphizing for humans caretaking for horses. But if explaining an equine circumstance in human terms increases someone's capacity to be empathetic toward that oppositional behavior, then it may benefit the horse, right? And so making that comparison between like foster kids and horses are not foster kids.
Right.
But
But
you
you're
then
illustrating
were
a
able to-
point.
yeah,
You're
you were
trying to
able to-
describe a situation or an experience to somebody that is not a horse person,
yeah,
right? So
or
to bring us to,
you're
to
not
educate
a horse.
us, right? Exactly.
That's like you're not a horse, so
Sure.
we don't know.
So the best way is to try to
Yeah, and that
understand whichever method works. Is that? I mean,
Yeah, or-
in a good way. It doesn't cause harm, of course, but
Yeah, I think sometimes like the spectrum of things we can understand are like it's based on the foundation of things that we've experienced. And so it's hard to and I can't do it because I'm not a horse. Right? But it's hard to even connect to behavior of another species without having some sort of foundational experience of humanity, right? And so there are incredible benefits for people making their own comparisons. And I see that all the time in wellness sessions. People will assume that a horse feels the same way that they feel. And that's wrong, probably.
Right,
But it
most
doesn't
likely
it
wrong.
doesn't really matter for
they're
that.
trying to understand.
They're trying to
and
understand themselves.
They're trying to find some common ground.
Yeah.
And relate to that animal or that situation.
Yeah, and then it's my job as a facilitator to go to ask the questions that help them come to the conclusion that this is not about the horse, this is about
Right.
them. And I almost never have to say that. Usually people come to that conclusion themselves.
That's interesting. Yeah. They're just working it out.
They are.
working it out in their mind or
Yeah.
verbally
Yes.
saying like, oh, I wonder if that horse is mad.
Yeah.
Or it seems mad. Like, well, why would the horse be mad type thing?
Yeah.
What reason? Yeah, they're just kind of.
But they got to get there
Extrapolate,
themselves.
yes,
That's
exactly.
what she's saying. They got to get there.
I do that with my
Because
dogs.
if I just say,
all
well,
the
that horse
time.
isn't mad,
You're mad.
then you're like,
That's all right. He'll bleep that out. It's all right.
then they go, oh, well, why do I think that horse is mad? You know what I mean? Like people, sometimes in order to do things for ourselves, we need to put it somewhere else first. Like,
Yeah.
we have to get it out in
Yeah.
order to sort of
Work through
put
it,
it
right.
into like neat little boxes. And then as time goes on, people realize, oh,
Yeah.
that horse wasn't angry. I interpreted that horse as angry, and that says something about me. But I can't. Most people are not gonna go into like a novel circumstance with a human and go, "Here's all the things that I do wrong all the time, and the patterns of my thinking that are not healthy." That it's just not. Most people aren't there, which is fine, obviously.
That's a good thing, I think.
Yeah. So being able to sort of look at something outside of them. I see the same thing, when I worked with kids, seeing how they respond to, I would assume, like, if you're building a fire, there are certain kids who can persevere through things, right? Or there are certain kids that are,
Like, oh my God, how long is this going to take?
yeah, and that
I
tells
don't want
you,
to learn about citizenship. I want to go swimming, mister.
Yeah.
And
and that tells you
on me.
something
Yeah.
about their experience as tiny humans in the same way that someone interpreting horse behavior tells me something about their experience. And they're not actually mad at the fire. It's not
Right.
about the fire.
No, it's, yeah.
Yeah. So it's
They're
the horse
they're
isn't
working
angry.
through a process or an experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Very cool.
Like experiential learning,
We're, this is fascinating. You definitely have to come back.
Yeah.
We are coming on the 2 hour mark, a little over 2 hours actually.
Yeah.
And I know Peter's got other stuff.
Oh.
Yeah, we don't totally own the show.
Yeah.
I am having,
yeah.
I am
Having fun,
unfortunately
you
having
said.
a wonderful
blast.
time. 'Cause
So-
this is this.
I think we have some openings coming up. So
Okay, yeah. I'd
it's-
love to come back.
Yeah.
We got to come. We got to.
Yeah, definitely. This is very interesting. It
Yeah.
really is, and we didn't even scratch the surface, so to speak, on some of the stuff I'm sure we wanted to ask and get into.
Yeah, no.
So it was just very informative, and
It'll be
again.
fun for us to talk after you've seen the film.
yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to come down. I want to meet Jack and Marty,
Yes.
and all the other
Yeah.
herd members that are hanging around.
Yeah.
And I do want to come down and see that. I love animals, and I've not been around horses. So
Yeah.
I think I had pony riding when I was a kid, and then it's
Yep.
like, then I'm saying like, how am I not around horses? Because I had a grandfather I didn't know who was in something called the Horse Marines, which would be like
Okay.
the cavalry,
Yeah.
right back in the
Yeah.
olden days.
It
And
like
then,
astonishes me that horses ever did that.
Yeah.
Now horses are like afraid of a plastic bag blowing in the wind.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's
really
That's
interesting.
crazy. You watch those movies, but there was and actually something else you can look up and we'll let you go is there was a horse in the Korean War called Reckless.
Yeah,
And
I
you
read-
about her.
yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah. And she's going moving through.
She's a
like,
thoroughbred.
and she's moving through artillery barrages and things
Yeah,
in the
Sergeant
war.
Reckless.
Yes, and she would
Yep.
move supplies back for the Marines. Yeah, true story. Incredible story there. But yeah, you have to come back for sure.
I
And
love
I know
it.
you're like in the middle
I
of
have a
this.
tough time with that. I have
Yeah.
a tough time with that. Like there was a movie. I think it was called War Horse. Maybe.
Yeah, that's fictional.
Yeah. Fair.
right, but
And I
this is-
understand.
yeah,
I
right.
understand that.
Yeah.
But it makes me very sad and
Mm-hmm.
angry to see horses used for war and
As a
for-
tool.
for getting abused.
Equipment.
And, they don't understand what. Anyway, so I
Yeah.
have a hard time with those kinds of.
Yeah, that's a tough movie. I've seen that. That's a tough movie.
It's a very tough movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That goes down like a whole. Well, we can talk about this next
That's
time.
next time,
But
yeah.
this goes down this whole like, is it ethical for animals to have jobs?
Right.
And I wonder about that often.
That's an interesting discussion for the next
next
visit.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is.
We were actually talking about ethics and versus morals. What's
Morals.
the difference between ethics and morals on our drive here? Because sometimes he'll give me a ride,
Yeah.
so that I don't have to drive all the way up, and we can kind of chat on the way
Yeah.
too. But yeah, I love this space of like thinking about thinking, right? Metaphysics is this is where I live,
Yeah.
and I'm most comfortable being here. And you're definitely like introducing a new window into that world with the horse, the equine angle, right? So that I'm like I want to learn more about it and stuff like that. So, I guess we'll stop.
I know. I don't want to stop, but I know we've got folks that have other
Yeah,
things
we
to
gotta
do,
let
and
Peter go.
we have other.
He's got a
his own.
dog and
He's got
got
his
a
own
family.
schedule.
We'll turn out to have lives.
Yes,
Yeah.
some lives.
Responsibilities.
Yes, adulting
Yeah.
art.
Yep, all that stuff.
So I hope you guys enjoyed this, and as always, as Rich pointed out, we're brought to you by the Western Mass Council, and thank you very much, Chelsea of
Thank
Factum.
you.
Thanks, Chelsea. It's
Equine.
great meeting you
you
and
so
talking with you.
much.
Go
Yeah,
check
really
that out.
appreciate
Go
it.
check it out online, and ask questions, interact, do what you can, because clearly you can see that this this has real value and it's real. So thank you very much for coming.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the time.
Wanna-
Thanks.
Want to play us out,
again.
Peter? Apparently that's my code phrase, playing us out.
Oh.